Hello everyone, it's me. I'm still alive. I do still make Death Battle content. I just had a bit of a break. Today we're talking about the matchup that just got revealed. And we are joined in fact by a very special guest. The King of the United Kingdoms himself is with us today. And also Cyber's here. Say hello.
Hello.
Thanks, Piper.
Hello, Kingsley.
Hi, first time being on one of these. I hope it's fun. It should be fun.
I think this will be fun. Nemesis, what do you think?
I think I know absolutely nothing. Well, I can't say absolutely nothing, because that would imply I've completely avoided every single detail about both series, but I know basically nothing about either series and either character, so if any of you watching right now have no idea about either of them, and you're just watching for the sake of watching, I'm in the same boat of having no thoughts in my head about all this, but hopefully it's just a fun time with my friends here to talk about it and to listen to who they think wins. I could have English better than that. I could have used English better than that.
I mean, we can let the viewers judge that.
This match was fun, but it's one of those ideas that like completely spoils both series just by existing.
So where should we start? Because I do very much enjoy both of these characters.
Now, I literally just said that I know nothing, and you instantly ask me, where should we start?
I mean, I have to torture you somewhat, so...
I feel like that's thematically appropriate here.
It is. Do you mind if I open a little bit, Kingsley, like talking a bit about Gojo?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sure. So, for viewers who have somehow never heard about who is him, Gojo is basically the most popular character from Jujutsu Kaisen, which is one of the most popular running manga right now, and anime. It's on its second season, actually. It's pretty good. I'd recommend at least watching the first season, see if you like it. But he's basically like the mentor figure, the Kakashi, if you will, of the main trio. Basically Ushiguro, Yuji, and a certain character who, I mean, if you haven't, should I or should I not? We'll avoid spoilers. Anyways, well, we will be spoiling a lot here, but one particular thing doesn't need to really be mentioned. Anyways, Gojo is like the most popular character in the series. He's like extremely charismatic. He's frankly quite handsome, and he just has like a certain energy to him that most of the fan base just loves him. Which is kind of ironic because Akutami, the author of the series, has gone on record multiple times that frankly they don't really like Gojo. Actually surprised Gojo is that popular, and have asked the fan base to vote for other characters when it comes to popularity contests, and even went on record to mention that 2020 was a better year after Gojo was sealed. Gojo's Japanese. Yeah, no, that one was when I saw that my jaw dropped. But yeah, Akutami is not really that big of a Gojo fan, despite creating the most popular character in the series.
And also all the others, I'd assume.
My headcanon. Well, my headcanon is that it has to do with Akutami just having a, like, basically kind of a headache explaining his abilities. It's like, if you buy the volume versions of Jujutsu Kaisen, there's like these funny editorial pages where it's like, Akutami's like editors like consistently would criticize and like critique just the infinity ability for Gojo, that like Akutami was always getting it mathematically incorrect. And Akutami actually went on like record trying to explain the ability in detail, and even mentioned that it was like some stuff was kind of just guesswork. I kid you not, there was a whole editorial like interview with two mathematicians just to explain, like, half of it was explaining domain expansions, but the other half was explaining just Gojo's abilities from like a mathematical standpoint. and even they mentioned on a few specific abilities was kind of like leaving it up to the reader, like their interpretation on like how it truly functioned. So it's like kind of a bit of a mess there. I don't think that's the entire reason that Akutami would have that take, but I think that might have to do at least slightly a bit with it. The more surprising thing to me is that Gojo's Japanese VA actually also mentioned that was kind of surprised that Gojo was that popular. But yeah, he is the most popular character in the series. Kingsley, do you want me to talk about Makima, or do you want to go over Makima a bit?
Fine with either.
What did you say?
I'm fine with either.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you want to go,
Sure,
I can.
So Marco, you can't really talk about her without avoiding spoil. Well, you can't really talk about her while avoiding spoilers because she's such a mysterious character who only has lots of her revealed at the end of the series. At the beginning of the series, Makima is introduced as the person who takes the protagonist Denji into the devil hunting organization and gives him a life, gives him a home. Actually portrayed as Denji's basically opposite of affection, the one who motivates him to get like do stuff because she's pretty. But there's a big mystery about her, depending on the theory about like what he's planning behind the scenes and the implication that like a lot of the events in the series are orchestrated by her. And the idea that we don't really know whether she's good or bad, like what her goals are. And then near the end of the series, we finally find out what's up with her. He's the control devil. He's the devil that represents the fear of control, meaning that anybody, like the fearing the idea of control makes them more powerful. And because of that, he has the ability to control others who he deems as being inferior to her, based on her own perception. And the entire plan of the series was her using Denji to manipulating him and manipulating the characters around him so that she could unlock Denji's inner ability, Chainsaw Man, and get the devil inside him and use that as a weapon to erase all evil from the world, everything she views as wrong. So she ends up being the final antagonist of Part 1.
Yeah, she is very much a mysterious character initially. Unfortunately, the fan base, or at least a good chunk of the fan base, more so cares about her for like basically like the wolf memes, like Nem. Like, I don't know if you ever checked out our first blog on like the first G1 blog. In like the very bottom of Makima's section, it mentions like she has like an effect on the IRL, and it was like an anime expo when they were talking about the Chainsaw Man anime, like before it dropped. There was, I kid you not, there's like dozens of people in the crowd just going wolf.
Oh no, I've seen that clip. Someone sent me that. Because I don't remember the conversation. Yeah, it was like who's got the worst fans? And then that just got dropped, and what was I supposed to think?
Yeah, she is very much simped for, like, to a crazy extent. Even after certain readers, I've been told there's two kinds of Chainsaw Man fans regarding Makima: those who have read the series and those who just simp for her. And surprisingly, you still get some people who simp for her after they find out what she does.
She's a big douche.
I mean, yeah, she. I did mention we're gonna have spoilers. Like Kingsley just went over it, but it's like basically like from the moment she finds Denji, she's basically like setting him up to get like, because like Denji himself like basically was just solo by himself, like suffering quite a bit, having to like even sell body parts to pay off his debt, his father's debt to like, I think it was the mafia, the Yakuza, but like basically like she found him, she learned that he was merged with Pochita, or the Chainsaw Man, and she wants like the actual Chainsaw Man, not Denji. She found out about the nature of his contract, which was like that he would live I believe it was like a happy life or a normal life. she figured, you know what? How can I break Denji? How can I get him to break his own deal with Pochita? She was gonna give him happiness and make it his new norm, and then take it away all from him, all destroy that happiness in one go. And she gives him basically the equivalent of a family, and one by one she has every single person that he loves and cares for die. And then basically at his lowest she breaks him mentally.
And this is the character people simp for.
This is the character people simp for, yes. This is a character that's also put up against oh, that's a good one. Saw that.
Brilliant.
This is a character that's up against Griffith, like for matchups too. That should kind of give you an idea as to like what kind of a person she is.
Oh, that's just lovely.
She's put up against Gojo for two reasons. One is that like early on when she was still mysterious, and like JJK and CSM were like running early, kind of like a fandom rivalry was born between the two, in the same way there was kind of one between Denji and like Yuji. And like unfortunately that rivalry also split into like non-versus stuff, and I mean, I kid you not, they have a shipping page. Like people like ship them like crazy. It's really, I was actually surprised to find out that there's like a shipping page for it too. In fact, like the one GIF on Tenor for the matchup is not actually for the matchup. This one that you can, I mean, we can't show it on screen, but like the one you can see in chat, this one is actually not a versus one, despite looking for it. It's actually for simping them, like for shipping them.
Of course. Like, why wouldn't it be?
But like the second reason is that like after part 1 of Chainsaw Man finished, and like JJK got like deep enough to see Gojo's character, they're kind of like an opposites of each other. Like I wouldn't say it's not Makima's most thematic matchup, but it's strong enough. It's like they're both like authority figures to the main characters, right, who seek them out and like differently intending and like see them as like the answer to their needs. Like Gojo sees not just Yuji but like the next generation as like a solution to kind of like the higher ups of like source of society kind of holding everyone back, and like being stuck in like the antiqual ways, whereas like for Makima, like Denji is kind of just a like a means to an end to get Pochita. And then like it ties into like deeper part. This was like run home recently by chapter 236 of JJK, which is not a really popular chapter. We'll get to that. It's like one of the most hated chapters of the series. But if there was one thing it did do, it was like it really sold one element of the fight. They're both like everything they do is born from like a sense of loneliness they both have. Like Makima is like, there's a line from one of the characters, his name is Kishibe, that like the government is somewhat responsible for how she ended up, which is like detached from everyone. She looks down on mankind for the most part, sees them more as like dogs. She also owns a pair of dogs, by the way, and unlike people, she treats them quite nicely. But like she basically had no attachment, no love. Like from the get-go, she basically was denied like it's like implication she was denied basically like basic human like relation. So it's kind of like her whole thing is she wants Pochita not just supposedly to get rid of evil things, but also because she sees that as like possibly something she can have an attachment with, like a relationship. Pochita himself kind of like hints towards this at the end of part 1, that really all she ever needed was love or a hug. Like she, spoiler, she reincarnates at the end of the part 1 as like a young girl named Nayuta, who's like, I think in appearance she was like what, 8 years old or something. I mean, not literally, but like appearance wise she's like 8. And like Denji adopts her, basically she's like a younger sister to him, right? Pochita mentions that like the only thing Control ever really ever wanted was like a family attachment, and that's what Denji is to Nayuta in part two. Basically, an older brother. It's kind of ironic that like a person who destroyed his life, he ends up uh kind of in a sense almost forgiving in a way, not necessarily, but it's like Nayuta is Makima yet isn't. No memories of being Makima. It's basically Makima given like a fresh start to receive that what she needed.
Huh.
Doesn't excuse her actions, but it's like that's the origin point of like where that came from. And then for Gojo to make this
Um,
quick, like, oh, go ahead.
and no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I think you could probably go into more. There's probably more that could be discussed for Makima.
Yeah. Makima is like, despite how evil she is, he does have sympathetic elements. You could argue about like how moral her intentions were. And the series like deliberately leaves it a bit open to interpretation. Like in the final fight, then you just ask her, in your perfect world, would bad movies exist? Makima responds no, and that's what causes Denji to decide to kill her. So it's like you have to read between the lines there and think about like the implications of what that's saying to determine like how moral he is. And then after he gets reincarnated, after I use the she's there's a gremlin.
Yeah, there's like a scene midway through the series where Denji and Makima watch movies, and she's kind of bored with all of them, and then they watch a bad one, supposed to be a bad one, but like there's a scene about actual like someone giving someone else a hug, and it prompts her to cry. There's always been a debate in the fan base whether or not she was faking the tear. I think you could probably argue strongly that that's like a very rare moment of no, it wasn't fake, and it kind of runs home with what like Pochita was saying, that that's what she wanted. She does say like when Denji, or rather Pochita, like was asking in her new world where there'd be a place for bad movies, and she answers no. I'm not even sure I'm convinced that that was like her being that like what she truly meant. I think at that point you could argue she was like pretty far gone. She is so obsessed with wanting Pochita that that was always it. Kind of everything else she said, she probably did mean she was gonna go do it. But it's like wanting Pochita is like the number one thing in her mind at that time. At least that's one of my takes. Um, Gojo is kind of like I know we need to get to the versus stuff, but like for Gojo, he's like the strong, and this is also another thing Makima has. Makima is not like the strongest in her series, but she's like the strongest in the Devil Hunter organization. She's feared pretty much by the whole world. By the like near the end of part one, she is such a presence and such a foothold and everything that the U.S. president is willing to give up 1 year of life of every U.S. citizen just to try and kill her. Even mentions that every other country on the planet has pretty much given up trying to oppose her. Like Gojo has kind of a similar kind of presence. Like when it's explicitly stated in series, when he was born, his very birth, just him being born, caused negative emotions in Japan to skyrocket, and it caused these things called curses, which are like almost like negative. Well, they're like monstrosities born from negative emotion, and basically like the more negative emotion there is, the more curses there are. His birth just caused
One,
them to skyrocket.
so I was gonna say one of the connections between these two series is that the monsters in both are made out of humanity's negative emotions and like made by their peers. So that's part of the theme. If anybody's confused.
Yeah, yeah, like devils and Chainsaw Man are basically like that too. Yeah, and they both get like stronger off of fear. Like that's more blatant for like devils, but if you like look into the like the Jujutsu Kaisen like light novels, they also make it pretty clear that like at least special grades like get stronger off of fear, and they like represent different things. But it's like Gojo's like birth is stated to have like changed a society and like shifted the balance of the world. He's the first um, holder of what's called the six eyes, his blue eyes that he has in like several hundred years. And what those eyes are is they're special eyes in his clan, the also named Gojo clan. Technically, his first name is Satoru. Um, Satoru. That's the better pronunciation. Um, but everyone just calls him Gojo, including like in series. He's just everyone just calls him Gojo. But yeah, he's like the first holder of those eyes, while also holding like the limitless technique, and like he's the strongest. He's considered the strongest to such a degree that if anyone interferes and is like tries to join him and attack him in his mission, it'll just hold him down. He always goes solo because nobody can compete with him, and it creates this like level of solitude for him. Like 236 really explores that despite him getting along with other people, he was really truly lonely. And Sukuna, one of the main villains of the series, mentions that Gojo is a greedy person who was seeking out attachment, being the strongest. And the difference between him and Gojo is that Sukuna is the strongest and he doesn't need attachment. He's never really considered that he needs any semblance of that. Whereas Gojo and other like characters who can be considered the strongest in the series constantly seek it out. And Gojo kind of lost his best friend about like a decade before the series. No, not a decade. That's when they had the fallout. Just a few years before the series started, his best friend died. His best friend kind of went all. I don't know how many people here watch Yu Yu Hakusho or have read it. Nem, have you?
I've watched several episodes. I've just not had time to like finish it.
Have you seen Chapter Black? Chapter Blackheart?
No.
Okay, to make it short, there's like a character named Sensui who's like kind of an inverse to Yusuke. Like they're both technically like spirit detectives, but like Sensui kind of became disgusted with humanity for what they were like doing, despite Hunt like being supposed to protect humanity. He learned of all the evils of mankind, so he kind of like went against them. And it's like similar with Gojo's best friend with his name is Geto, Suguru Geto, and this kind of thing is also a sorcerer. He ends up learning basically like that, like if mankind besides sorcerers perished, it would stop curses coming in. And like the combination of having to like use his ability to consume curses, always filling him with negative emotions, and being on the field like helping people, just seeing like how bad humanity could be, was pushing him over the edge. Him encountering two young girls being like beaten and like abused by a whole village just because they were different, and it turns out they were sorcerers, was the final blow. And it steered him on the path of basically him deciding that he actually has a connection with Frieza because he calls humans monkeys, and he considers sorcerers like superior over normal humanity. He decides that he wants to basically like slaughter all of mankind besides sorcerers and just keep only them alive, which obviously puts him at odds with his former best friend, results in his death.
That sounds more like Zamasu, though.
Frieza, I mean only Frieza because of like the monkey thing. But yeah, he's more like, I guess you could say like Zamasu, but he's more like Sensui in a way that like he truly does. He wish it didn't have to go that path, but he's kind of a foregone conclusion because he was slowly going there. Like one of the other characters who's like a mentor, her name is Yuki. She tells him like he's at a crossroads, because she knows that like he's conflicted on what he wants to do. It's just that final scenario with the two young girls who ends up adopting, by the way. That was the final blow. That was just kind of like it broke what remained of his like, part of him that cared more for humanity or was willing to help people, and he just became about sorcerers, and then the rest of humanity can just perish. Doesn't excuse his actions whatsoever, but it's kind of like what you with all that. It's like you can see why like Gojo's kind of lonely. Like lost his best friend, who later didn't just fall to the dark side, but basically dies later on. And then like little by little, all of Gojo's friends went from when he was in high school. Like they die. He gets sealed away in Shibuya by an imposter basically using the corpse of his best friend as a host body. And then basically by the time he's released, he ends up learning that everything went to crap because of him being sealed away. That's another problem. Him being the strongest basically made it like that everyone would rely on him too much. His sudden removal causes literally everything to just basically go to crap. Like Japan becomes overwhelmed with curses. There's a threat to the rest of the world because of it. Its economy starts plummeting. A lot of stuff really starts happening. But I've digressed too much, and I do apologize for that. I love both of these series quite a bit.
I'm just in like a perpetual state of trying to keep up.
There's a lot of specific things you can make, but at its core, it's like they're the two most popular characters in two very popular and compared series, and both are known for having lots of like crazy patsy abilities. So it's a very common and like also comparison.
Oh yeah, like I can understand like why the matchup exists. I'm just trying to keep up with all the everything that was just said.
I get you.
Sorry.
It's alright.
But we could just go into discussing powers. We could probably talk about a little bit of narrative later. But it's like, the debate here is kind of like, thankfully we don't have to deal with anything like Harold's multiversal or whatever universal characters. It's far more grounded than that.
I think
it's not as grounded as like John Wick. It's far more grounded.
I've not seen many. I've not seen many debates with Chainsaw Man, but I have noticed that there was a time where the trigger word was super volcano, and that was an interesting era. That was just funny because I knew nothing about the debates, but I did know that it was really funny when people were arguing super volcanoes are not volcanoes, and like. I have no stakes in the debate, but that's just not true. That's like saying a gas giant is not a planet just because it's a big planet. If
you want context on that, and to make this one quick, what that originated from was a 12-hour debate back when we had a special event in Gumball's server, and yeah, it was 12 hours. I kept track of the clock.
Oh yeah, I think I was there even.
Yeah, I think you were there. It was a 12-hour long debate. It was with a friend of mine and a few other ones, and we were debating Yuji versus Denji. And it went one way, and then it went another, and it kept going for like 12 hours. But a good chunk of it was like... so, we mentioned Pochita earlier. Like, Denji, should his contract get like broken, like, Pochita himself will like take over Denji's body and like resume his old like Chainsaw Man form, right? He has like these vague so basically like anything Pochita eats from like a devil, since like devils embody different kind of fear, they will be like erased from history as if they never existed. History will be rewritten. Like he's eaten multiple things, like World War II never happened in Chainsaw Man, Nazis never existed, I think a few diseases got erased. Kingsley, do you remember what else got erased besides the volcano? And I'm trying to remember. It's like multiple things got erased.
He
Nukes.
ate,
Nukes. Yeah.
That's what he said.
he ate more.
Oh,
He ate more abstract things like he ate the multiple afterlives after death. That the only thing that happens to death, and the only thing that happens after you die is like nothing.
right. There were other ones, and oh, he also ate. I don't know how the heck this one works, but he also ate the light, or from like a star that was driving children mad. Like he ate the devil that represented it. That one, the Nuke Devil, and Mount Hio, which is like a fictional volcano. It doesn't exist in real life. Those three caused a bit of a debate because it's like it was
I wonder why.
like an ongoing debate. Well, it was an ongoing debate on, since all we know about this is in text, like do devils scale 1-to-1 with what they represent? Because the argument was, if he ate like a devil that is light, he would be like light speed, or if you argue it's like represents the star, he'd be like star level. Mount Hio, like you mentioned, it was like a whole debate on like what is a super volcano, because it was like, I can't remember the value. It was like megatons possibly. It was some degree. And then the nuke one wasn't too hard to, but like, there was also a debate whether or not that would include like the star Bomba. It's like, because since World War II was erased, I think we ended up like going with like a like something like the like World War II bombs, or like not too long after that. Yeah, it is unfortunately super vague. We might get like more clarification. Like Fujimoto is not about like Fujimoto has like a certain style to his writing, and it's never really about caring about like power or anything like that. Like it's not gonna follow like a Naruto kind of like scenario where it's like the characters go like show multiple like named abilities or whatever, where you get like a display of power of the people. Like this is a recommendation to you, Nem, if you ever get the time. I highly recommend Goodbye Eri by Fujimoto. It is really good. Very good. There's also Fire Punch, which is also really good, but that one is a little heavier than Chainsaw Man. You've read Berserk, right?
Did you just ask me if I've heard of Berserk?
No, not heard. Read.
Yes. I am aware that Fire Punch is the one manga that I've seen people consider more depressing and dark.
Yes.
That is the one thing I know about it, and that there's a reaction image of it as well.
I did not know there's a reaction to this. Oh, is it that? I don't think I have it. Like, let me see. Do I even have it? Fire. Nope, I'm not in a server that has it.
It could just have a different name. It's not important.
Yeah. No, it's I do recommend like something like it. Oh,
yeah, there it is.
Oh no, Agni.
That is just begging for a caption. That's just me when, and that's the whole thing.
Oh no. But I guess we should get into abilities. Kingsley, do you want to go over any of the abilities, or do you want me to go over like Makima or Gojo's abilities?
I think it'd be good to start with Liminal.
Which character?
I think it'd be good to start with Gojo and Liminal and explain like what's up with that.
Okay, so want me to start with Gojo?
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Okay, so despite me mentioning a bit earlier that Akutami cannot make up like their mind regarding infinity and limitless, it's not too hard to understand. I think, like, you can just give a very basic understanding, and it pretty much covers it. So the best place to start with Gojo and his toolkit is his curse technique. And like a curse technique is basically like kind of, it's not 1-to-1 with jutsu, but that would be just a simple way to put it. It's just like an ability born from their energy, which is curse energy, which is like, it's born from the gut of the person, and it's like based off of like their negative emotions. It flows from the gut to the rest of the body, and the brain can produce something called reverse curse reverse curse technique, RCT, which is like basically just regeneration. Like a person, if they master that, they're capable of using it to heal their body to some extent. It's just no matter how good the user of RCT is, the one thing they cannot heal fully is the brain. Like they can maybe heal parts of it, but if like their brain is sufficiently damaged or destroyed, they're dead. Because that's where RCT originates from, the brain. But yeah, so like Gojo's curse technique is limitless, and it's the trademark of his clan, the Gojo clan. The six eyes are like necessary to make full of use of it, and the eyes that he has, they grant him a bunch of perks like enhanced sight, but their biggest buff is like basically allow him to use just like the smallest amount of curse energy for every technique. Like normally a person would be wasting a good amount for like big moves. Even his big moves only use a small amount. They're really good at helping him conserve energy. They give a bunch of other buffs, so that's like the big ones. So like limitless is basically like you can't touch me. It's basically like kind of like accelerator from Index.
Well, that doesn't help
So
me.
it's like sure. All right, then let's do it like this. So it's like basically it artificially creates an infinite space, but not by basically slowing down the target. Let's say you shot him with I don't know, a shotgun round, right? So there's like the way the barrier works is that there's different like interval points that continuously slow it down. At basically what is basically like slow it down infinitely, as people say sometimes. It's never gonna reach Gojo is the thing. It's gonna keep slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. And
Now you said it,
basically
that
it's stuck
makes
in
sense.
perpetual.
It turns any attack
Yeah.
made towards him into a super task, essentially.
Yeah, it'll never
Yes.
reach him. There's some exceptions, but it's based off like the way it works. It's based off the mass, speed, shape, and level of danger of the target. So it's like early on in the series, he encounters these bugs that explode, right? And they release a sound attack, and the sound reaches his ears. That's how he's able to tell it was a sonic attack. His eyes, the six eyes, which is what he sets to basically like process what the ability like what it stops and what it does not perceive sound as like something lethal to him. The same thing with light, otherwise he wouldn't be able to see.
That
Like
would be really
light
funny.
and sound can pass through. Yeah. Light and sound can pass through. You know one thing that never made sense with me with Accelerator? His ability blocks out sunlight, which is why he's kind of albino, yet he can actually still see. How does that work?
Who's got such a mathematically huge galaxy brain that he can predict every single atom and where it is at all times. That's clearly what happens.
And I never understood that. Like, he's blocking out sunlight, yet he can still see. Shouldn't he be blocking out all light at that point, even to his eyes? But anyways, getting back on track. Yeah, like basically, if like a Hack's ability can like negate distance, it will reach him. The other big thing that can get through Limitless is like spatial hacks, like stuff like spatial cutting, or like say Kakashi's like Kamui. Stuff like that would get through it, no diff.
Oh god, you
basically,
probably
like-
just started an argument in the comments by mentioning Kakashi Kamui versus Gojo's power.
Okay, so I was hoping I wouldn't have to bring this up.
Oh no.
236 spoilers. I'm not going to say everything that happens in it. Just going to say spatial cutting was capable of getting through Limitless on panel. So something like Kamui should work. Explicitly, it was spatial cutting, and like it like no diffed the ability.
Which makes sense.
Um,
If something can bypass space, then a power that's all about like making distance, more or less, just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, his ability would just get nagged. Now, granted, like I said, it's not a perfect defense. It's a really good defense. So, Gojo's got to have some other tools in his kit, right, for defense. So he's got some barrier techniques, and how these work is they're meant for like enhanced defense against other kind of attacks. He has an ability called Simple Domain, which creates like a circular effect on the floor, like where he's standing. It's basically meant to like protect against like these things called shirt hit attacks. Think of them as like homing attacks, like effects or like attacks that home in on him. If they have a condition set on them that they will always strike Gojo, the Simple Domain at least cancels out, at least for a limited time, that specific kind of condition that the attack will always reach him. He has a thing called Falling Blossom Emotion, which is basically like lacing his body in cursed energy, and it's meant to like protect against other cursed energy attacks. It's not super effective against, say, like a normal physical punch that has nothing to do with cursed energy, but it does help with like defending against like cursed energy attacks. And he has a thing called a curtain. Curtain is like a preset like kind of barrier that you can set up around a location to like cut out sound or sight. Like sorcerers use it to like, let's say they have to go into like a shopping mall and kill a bunch of curses there, right? You can set up a curtain to prevent normal people from seeing their actions. You can also block people to come out, like coming in, but that like requires prep time, and it's not something really you'd be able to do, I don't know, during like a fight. Well, then Gojo also has his iconic red. It's gonna be, I'm just gonna post it for Nem to see. So red is like little red ball that shoots out as like a blast, sending the target flying. And it's like the reverse of his normal one, which is called blue. Blue is like,
that's creative.
Weird in what it does. Just, I mean, just wait until you get to purple.
Oh, I like this now.
So blue is kind of like Gojo creates like this gravity almost kind of effect where it like works in different variations, but it could be something like almost like TK, where he like literally with his finger throw a building at someone, or like creates an orb that compresses everything towards itself, or he uses it like almost like Pain from Naruto to like send targets flying or bring them to him. It has a lot of applications. But it's like his go-to, his favorite technique to use. Even his punches are laced with it. It'll just draw you in and give like a stronger punch effect. And he can combine these two for purple. Purple is like little three variations.
Well, purple is the best one, obviously, you know.
So its normal variation is just literally basically a giant energy ball being sent that like crushes everything it hits. And can also be shot out as like a smaller version for like specific target on the body that's much faster than this, because this has a bit of setup time. And there is one final variation that takes a bit of prep time.
A little setup time,
not prep
yeah.
time,
Good
but,
luck
setup
dodging
time.
that, though.
The last one is a nuke.
Oh, brilliant.
Basically, if he has to put himself in the epicenter too, so it will hit him. But yeah, there's like a nuke version that would just like, the way he did it was he created one of those blue orbs, and then he shot a red in midair so that it would hit the orb that already existed, and it just went like a massive omnidirectional explosion.
Wait, how does it hit him? Does it bypass his own ability?
That's the weird thing. Purple was... They never explained how the heck purple hit him. It did hit him, but it only did a little bit of damage. Gojo explains because it's his own energy, his body barely took any damage. Either had infinity off, or it somehow messed with infinity.
He can just turn it off?
It's never explained. Yeah, he can turn infinity off. He actually does that sometimes to hit. It's like...
Huh.
Infinity is odd because it's like, it's passive when the blindfold is off. When it's on, it's not necessarily passive. It's like Akutami has explained that using the 6 eyes, despite their like purpose of energy conversion, and Limitless drains the brain. So like Gojo normally keeps RCT, like the healing thing, right, running through his own brain 24/7 to keep it refreshed. But for an extra level of keeping himself refreshed, he wears the blindfolds to basically like restrict the eyes. He can still see through them because of their effect, but they help keep him like refreshed at all times. The catch is if the blindfold is on, and there's multiple times in the manga this occurs. If a thing is about to hit him, he does usually one hand sign, to like activate Infinity, to stop it. If the blindfold is off, it's entirely passive. There's like a scene in like a subway area where he gets shot by like a supersonic blood attack from the back when he didn't know the person was there. He had no time to make a hand sign, but his blindfold was off and it just the attack stopped. So it's basically like he restricts himself with the blindfold, which makes it minorly active, and if it's off, that means he's going all out and it becomes passive.
So wait, I'm confused. Is the blindfold have anything like special to it that makes it do that, or can you just like blind him anyway and that will just stop it?
So I'll answer both. It just restricts like how much he's using the six eyes, basically by blocking his sight. That's basically it. It's basically his own. Theoretically, he could just keep Infinity passive while keeping it on. He just does that with the hand to like conserve energy and conserve stamina. It's no longer a problem for him after he gets unsealed. The entire Sukuna fight lasted probably like an hour or something or longer. He has no blindfold throughout that time, and basically it's passive the entire time in that prolonged battle. Your second question was if he went blind, right? So the six eyes have like mistranslated in series, unfortunately. Like the official translation for Jujutsu Kaisen with Viz is full of mistranslations. There are actually multiple projects online to go through and like get proper translations. There's a thing also called TCB
Excellent.
that does decent translations. But yeah, JJK is infamous for having like one of the worst Viz translations out there.
That's a solid Saint Seiya moment.
And so like the six eyes are like tied to Limitless to such a degree that if they were theoretically destroyed, it would probably restrict the ability. Thing is, Gojo's like potency with his healing is so good. He can heal like his eyes or entire limbs. Like Sukuna's like again, spoilers, he fights Sukuna. But like Sukuna's like blade ability called Dismantle and Cleave, which is like a slicing effect. It chopped right through his neck, so like decapitated him, but his neck healed so fast, like the two parts came together, that his head couldn't fall off. And like there's slashes going right through his skull multiple times in that fight, and by pushing his healing to its limit, basically like prevents like any lasting damage. It can't, like, the healing can be overtaxed if he's forced to keep it in like full blast for too long. It'll start lowering the potency of the healing. When that occurs, you'd get like his attacks would get weaker, but he can do like chants for almost from like, again, I think your exposure to Bleach is probably limited, but Bleach has a thing called Keto where like you do enchantments to enhance your like spell, basically. Like it's kind of similar. Like Gojo can do certain enchantments, vocal enchantments, to increase the power of his techniques if it like his healing has been like basically like lessened. And I guess the last two big tools in his kit, there's the Black Flash, which is kind of like, Black Flash is usually involuntary. It's like if you're in the right kind of like, if you're in the zone, basically, like the right emotional state, like, and your cursed energy hits like at some, Kingsley, do you remember the time frame for like it? Is it like a microsecond or is it a millisecond? I can't remember.
It's like, I think 0.01 milliseconds.
Something like that. Your cursed energy like sparks like that at that time frame, like it causes a black energy like effect on your physical strike, and it increases its power immensely. In fact, let me just post an image, like a GIF of what Black Flash looks like. yeah, this kind of like black effect, um, with like the red hue from like a physical blow. And Akutami had to take back something he said about it because he said that he wanted, or so, excuse me, they said they wanted like kind of like it to be cool, not just like a generic Dragon Ball multiplier, basically. So it gave it an exponent of 2.5. The problem is Akutami came to realize, wait a minute, that breaks the setting, and it doesn't make any sense. Because like, I'll use the character that this punch is used on in this GIF as an example. Their name is Hanami. Yuji is able to harm Hanami with his normal blows, and also with Black Flash. So it's like, if you took the 2.5 multiplier, or sorry, 2.5 exponent multiplier, it should be like a one shot. It's not even just the versus Vader thing. It's like something Akutami kind of acknowledged, that it's kind of like, well, I made that multiplier to sound cool, but it really doesn't make much sense.
It's a massive multiplier.
Yeah.
Oops.
The other thing about Black Flash is if you do connect it, it leaves you in like a zone kind of like mental state. Have you ever seen Kuroko no Basket?
I'm so uncultured.
It's a basketball anime. Like, it has its own like, if I recall, its own kind of like zone kind of effect. Like when they were playing, it's kind of similar to that. It's kind of like Gojo hits one, and it'll leave him like at 120% capacity of his power rather than the usual 100, just for a bit, and also has the possibility of like restoring his healing potency, while that zone effect is as active. It's only temporary, but Gojo has like hit 4 Black Flashes probably within the span of like 10 or 20 minutes, something like that. Before. The last one is Domain Expansion. Domain Expansion is his big finishing move. It's basically he creates like this kind of like pocket dimension around him and his target, right? And it traps them with him in there with a barrier that won't let them out normally. And it basically has 2 properties. One, it makes all of his regular attacks in the domain have like an auto hit effect, like a homing attack effect, and it also increases his physical attacks. Basically, his potency goes up to 120%. And the last one is an info dump. It fills the head with supposedly like infinite information. Like Akutami mentions, it's like, think of the word apple, and it would fill the brain like with the letter A, and then like move on to the letter P in repetition, and P, and then L, and then E, without like before even filling them with like the knowledge of also like the apple in repetition, and then like keeps flooding the head with this, like stunning the person. If they stay in there too long, they will die. Like 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds, like just turning like Sukuna's brain to like mush, like literally bleeding out of his nose and his eyes. 0.2 seconds fills you with about 6 months of information, which is like the max people in JJK can survive.
That is
like,
about how it felt to be in that
them...
Madara Aizen prediction. That's relatable.
Yeah, Gojo had to use like that time frame specifically in the Shibuya fight, like in the subway, because basically the curses were like had normal people there they were killing, just using it against him so that way he wouldn't go all out. It would result in the death of everyone. So he went basically, you know what? What's the minimum time frame I could use that these people will survive? And he did it for only 0.2 seconds. They had to be hospitalized for several months, but they at least survived. He can the berry does have a weakness. It's weaker on the outside than the inside. So if you broke it, you can from the outside. That's one way to deal with it. If like a domain is broken, it burns out his abilities for a bit. He can either wait a few minutes to let it restore, or he can do the more dangerous route of destroying a part of his brain with curse energy and then restoring it. I mentioned earlier you can't regenerate the full brain, which he can't, but he can like selectively target parts of his brain, nuke it, and then restore it. He can do that up to 5 times with the part responsible for the domains. Once he hits number 5, his body will reach its limit, and he can't use domain expansion again. And that's the last thing is with the domain expansion, he can also like compress the barrier to make it more durable, so that way nobody can like break it from the outside. And he, like I mentioned, he can also do like in like a 0.2, like just a quick like flash fire version of it, just in case. And that's pretty much it. I think that's kind of every ability. Oh, and he also has the funny clones. I don't know if you remember Killua from like Killua Misaka has like the rhythm echo, like the whole after image effect, not really after images. Gojo's able to like create after images of himself because like blue affects like distance as well. He also uses it to teleport. Like if he clasps his hands, he can teleport. I think the largest amount he's teleported was from like the Japanese trench all the way to some other part of Japan. I don't think it was specified, but he saw it crossed a good portion of Japan when he used it. He can use it mid-combat, and he can also like teleport other people away to different locations if he draws like a sigil on the ground. So he's pretty much he's a pretty robust character. He has a lot of different abilities, really good defense, and if it fails, he has a lot of other defensive options too. But yeah, he is the quote unquote strongest. Spoilers: he's not actually the strongest. He's like maybe like the second strongest. Sorry for how long that was. He's just got a lot. Kingsley, do you want to cover Makima to some extent?
Oh yeah, we're only halfway through all that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gojo being so complicated is why I asked because yes, he has a lot of abilities.
Yeah, I see now.
And look, yeah. And also just to correct myself, Black Fat is 1 microsecond, so yeah. But Makima,
I figured it was something like that.
Makima, she's I think a bit less complicated, but powers less cohesive. So, like was said, Makima is the control devil. Devils in Chainsaw Man are like beings which represent the face of humanity. So, as we mentioned, there was a nuke devil, there's a disease devil, there's a gun devil. Makima represents the fear of control, which means that as the more people fear control and the more people fear the idea of being controlled, the more powerful Makima gets. And as the control devil, her main ability is control. Specifically, he has the ability to mind control anybody who she thinks is inferior to herself. It's based on her own perception. So, if she believes somebody is in status than her, then she can mind control them. And it's not related to what the other person thinks, which is like that's a bit like a translation issue, but it's based on her own perception. That's her core ability, and as a result, it means she basically has control over most of the characters in the series because she's so high in status and because she views herself above so many people. And then a second main ability, which is like it's something a lot of characters can do, but specifically her, anybody she controls, she can make a contract with, which is like they agree to lend her their power, in exchange for life. Which means that you can like after controlling someone, she can just make them fulfill a contract of give me all your powers and you'll be my servant. And she's done that to many characters across the series. So because of that, she has access to basically most of the abilities during the series because she controls almost the entire camp and can just thumb them because of the contract to their servants. So yeah, she has a lot to cover as well. It's a bit less cohesive. Her ability unique to her is Bang, which is like her signature offensive ability. And all she does is she just points the finger and it projects like an invisible force, which just smashes whatever is in its path. We don't really know much more about it than that. It's not clear whether it's like an actual force being projected or if it just like spawns a force on whatever she's trying to target. But it's very potent, and she's used it to launch Chainsaw Man into space just with a few shots from ground level. She was able to blast him into orbit.
Oof.
So it was a very long range too, and she again just does it with the like points of the fingers. Um, and then beyond that, her main powers are the abilities of all her contracted devils and all her contracted people. So she has a lot. It's kind of easy to start. I guess the main thing, a lot of the devil abilities are quite unique. And do a lot of like specific things. So just like the stuff gets starting from the ground up. Basic like soldiers and basically like agents in her division in the like her organization. They have contracts with stuff like the Mole Devil, which has the ability just like gives them the ability to just point their fingers and form mold inside people's lungs and organs, and their brain and hearts. Um, and when they used on somebody, it was showing that it was causing them to bleeding out the nose and being like plastic because there's moles in there inside their body. That's something that like a few soldiers, a few agents in her organization hasn't, but she controls them. She can just summon those people and get them to use it for her. Another ability some agents in an organization have is the Stone Devil, which is like by being contacted with the Stone Devil, means that by creating a circle and doing like a small ritual, and then blowing wind around them, and anything that wind touches is and stone and petrifies. It does require a better setup. They have to draw a circle around themselves and then blow the wind like through a circle basically through the hand. So it's not super high range and it's not that quick, but it's obviously still useful. What else? Yeah, some characters have the called the Punishment Devil, which is just based on like a big monster and attack you. We don't make it much more better than that. And then for like more significant characters, more main characters who she controls, and quick spoilers, one of the people she controls is Archie, who is one of the significant high character, and he has a few devils. And the first one is the Fox Devil. It just summons the big fox heads that just completely crushes whatever it's summoned on in its mouth, and it can reach like the size of the building, so it's pretty good range. Then probably most notable is the Future Devil, which like I'm making a contact with the Future Devil. Archie is able to see a few seconds into the future through
it's also a really good dancer. It's also a really good dancer.
But yeah, the Future Devil literally exists in one of his eyes, so by seeing through that eye, he's able to see these actions in the future and we gives him a big edge in combat. Mark can use that by summoning Archie. And then his third devil is the Curse Devil, which after the user attacks the opponents by making a cross with their attacks, by making a cross across the opponent's body, the Curse Devil is summoned and just completely crushes the opponent's body, and like reduces their living to nothing. So it's basically an instant kill if the user can create the cross across the opponent, but it does also cost the user the lifespan. It's like a big risk. Archie is like, he doesn't have long to live by the end of the series. He was helped. But yeah, so there's also like special division of just devils, an organization, just like not dealing with contract with devils, just devils themselves. First one is the Spider Devil. I think the Spider Devil would be a lot more powerful than she is, but she's a spider, she can climb walls. But her main ability is that she's able to create zippers which transport people. She can phase through objects and she can transport people across dimensions using her zipper. She opens the zipper on her body, and then she wants to take be thrown in and like take them to where she wants to take them. And Mark can use that specifically to take herself to hell at one point. So Mark has like form of traversing dimensions by summoning Spider Devil.
Wait, I'm sorry. That's a spider ability?
Yeah, I
No, the
don't
Spider
get the
Devil
Spider
has
Devils.
like a zipper. The Spider Devil can like not only has a zipper, but she can like turn intangible. Like she can go like, for example, like underground for like a surprise attack. It's really weird that it applies to Spider, but yeah, she has like a zipper. The zipper opens up and then Makima can travel through it. So like, let's say she's like in another dimension, like Spider could just like bring her out of the other dimension by opening up her zipper. This is a Spider Devil, also known as Princey.
Spiders don't do that. They also don't look like that, to be fair, but I could feel like there was a logical through line for a while, and now I'm just confused. Anyway, yeah, you can
Don't worry,
continue.
you get more confused.
Oh, good, lovely.
I've always
You've
thought
just
it's
domain
like a
expansioned
reference
on me,
to,
I
like,
guess.
Spiders like. I think it's just like a reference like spiders. They like go out of nowhere, just pop out of crevices. It's like that's what people fear about them. So the Spider Devil has that ability.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
think
how.
she'd be a
That's
lot more
I
powerful
guess.
given how prevalent.
Yeah, no, I see.
It's definitely weird. Uh, but yeah. So another devil she has access to is the Angel Devil, who's another like actual main character. The Angel's ability is that wherever he brings the life force of wherever he touches and reduces the lifespan, and it's proportional to the amount of time that's as the amount of time that like the amount of body that he's touching them. So like if you shake someone's hand, that's going to drain their lifespan by like I think like 6 months. Just like just brushing him takes like 6 months, and then shaking his hand that takes more and more time. So extended contact with his like with his body, with his skin would just reduce the lifespan to nothing and just instantly kill you. And then he can create that lifespan he created into weapons, which have special abilities like being able to hit in hand with the ghosts, and then trade a score that's implied to kill people on contact. But no, we know it kills people on contact. We never like it's unclear if he used it as bits it's whipping, but yeah, the weapons he creates have special abilities. And he also has wings.
1,000 years
See.
looks really cool. Like 1,000 years, like okay, so like then the weapons are named after the number of years used up to make them. 1,000 years is the highest we've ever seen. It opens up like this like hole. It looks like it's from space. Shoots out a beam, and then it turns out it's like a spear. It's like the visual for it is really cool. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. Yeah. And then there's a few like random devils that are just like becoming things. So the mantis devil, see, violence fiend is just like is a fiend is a devil like taking the body of a human basically, and violence fiend is just like he's strong, he's really strong, and can just like hit people really hard with his violence. She has access to the shark fiends, whose abilities that he can like swim through surfaces by getting attackable, like skydivers. And then the only like then you have the zombie devil, which like it creates a horde of zombies. And she can like revive dead people and zombies. Whoever zombies bites, they become zombies themselves. So that's another good ability. And she like it gets her like another mini army. So those are all her like basic stuff. Those are like troops you can just summon. Because the contract means you can just like even if they're completely like other sides of the planet, she can just summon them and they'll be bound for her body via chains. And because she controls them, they're like they don't really have any free will. She can just use them however she wants. So she mainly fights with that like army. But her main like soldiers, I guess, and the main people she controls for her combat are hybrids, who are like it's a whole thing in the story, but they're like humans who have merged with the devil basically and can like take on a devil form without being the devil themselves. That's what Crimson Man is. That's what Deadly is, the protagonist. And that she has a few of these, and because the hybrids are like very powerful, very strong, they're her top arsenal, making she use combat. So she has the bomb hybrids, who can create bombs out of her body. She can like just manifest explosions. She can like throw off parts of her body, and there'll be bombs as well. She can bomb jump, and her explosions are very big, and they can like devastate entire buildings. And something to mention about the hybrids reminds me is that they have very good regen, and it's like as long as they have blood to feed on, they can just regen from basically like from being completely blown apart, like their limbs completely scattered, and then as long as they have some blood that's like built into their mouths, they can regenerate from that. So it's not like they can just regenerate with the snap of their fingers. It does require circumstances, but it does mean that like they're very hard to kill in the series. Because
Technically, all devils.
Like,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, technically all devils can do that, but it's more like those sort of hybrids.
Yeah, hybrids have like the better regen. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like blowing apart the devil, which like will kill them. But yeah, with he has 8 hybrids, so that it's like literally pretty hard to beat in that sense. The crossbow hybrid is a crossbow. She's not a named character, and her special ability is that she's incredibly fast. Like she's able to like cut through an entire crowd of people, completely invisible just from how fast she is moving, and nobody could react to her just how fast she was. And then she showed up most characters, but yeah. She has katana hybrids. It's katanas. It's a flamethrower hybrid. It's flamethrowers. Spear hybrid. It's spears. You know, it's like concept pattern. And because they all represent different weapons, they have it gives her a bit of character, a bit of versatility in that sense. Longsword hybrid, whip hybrids. So those are like all those hybrids. They're the main things she uses in her final fight with she's the one essentially. And they're the strongest, and they like scale to the best speed. And then near the end of the series, they find the gun devil, and they find out that it's only produced like only 20% of his body, and that's the portion Japan has. Through summoning all her hybrids and like using them in a creative way, she manages to defeat the gun devil, and then it's implied, we're not shown, but it's implied that he gets the gun devil as well, and she like contracts it and controls it. And she is able to then feed the gun devil and merge it with the dead body of Ark, I mentioned earlier, and turn him into the gun hybrids. That's the gun hybrid. He's able to. It's the gun fiend. I mean, he has very, very powerful shots that just like can target specific people and completely like blow them away. And his shots can like devastate entire like city blocks and small towns. He's like strong enough to get into an extent as Denji, so he's like another thing. Those are all her shown abilities and stuff we know she has, and we know she's contracted with those people, and it's like some of them in the fights. But the implication with Makima is that she was like controlling basically the entire series, and like from the first chapter, everything in the series was orchestrated by her, and that all the villains were like really being controlled by her, even if they didn't realize this. So arguably, she gets access to the abilities of some other characters in the series. We don't see her directly control, but like because of the narrative implication, we can like it's like arguable that she would have control over them to like stone them and use her abilities. It's like, is everything actually making sense now?
As much as it can make sense, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's got a lot of these two. But yeah, so in terms of like characters being my down access to, the main thing is that the crossbow hybrid specifically, named Confi, he has their own like power mostly of like fiends who all have their own unique abilities. The first one thing she has to just like analyze the information of any devils she sees, just by looking at them, and she can tell their abilities, what their name is, like what they actually represent, and then like the condition of their body, get good information analysis. Long is like even which could be fire. And then probably the most notable one is Cosmos. So you know that thing of how Gojo's main expansion can like info dump on people. Cosplays basically have the same thing. By just saying the word Halloween, or giving you like saying the word Halloween is full for further words. Like these people inside in a library in her own mind. The library represents the knowledge of the entire universe, which he then dumps into the person's mind, all at once, which of course it then renders them completely immobile and catatonic. And it's so cool because this ability it was able to like take out someone whose specific power was that she was like bonded with an entire army of dolls with shadow consciousness, which meant that like you go with one body to just send her consciousness to another body, another. But because the info dump was the info of the entire universe, it just completely flooded that entire pool and rendered her entire army completely immobile and killed her essentially. In a sense, it's unclear if Marco would have access to these because they're all we just don't know. It's possible, but we know it's like you're using them and the fiends. She kills them like midway through the series. And obviously she can summon people even who have been killed, so that wouldn't like stop her. We just there's no evidence either way. But if assuming you give that to her, then obviously she has like a very direct counterpart to Gojo's domain expansion. And then like just getting specific for the base of harm before it plays on. And then yeah, you have levels you might have. The hell level, it's level representing hell. It has a lot of fight behind it, but even invisibility drops. But its main ability is like it can take people to hell by like manifesting a big door. And then Chainsaw Man, when he was taken out, he just like killed the hell devil and burst out of it to stop it. So it's like at least some form of like battle evil. And then yes, another devil, the eternity devil. His power is that he can just like he can like take small space and turn it into an infinite looping like if a looping room or a looping hallway. He shows up in the series. And because it's in a looping hallway, you can't escape until you kill the eternity devil and just himself. Because he can just hide out. It makes it tough. But Denji is able to beat him, just like drawing him out and then just like him for so long basically like he gives it up willingly and just lets himself die. The Eternity Devil popped up again recently in the series and it was something similar there. Yeah, so those are all her contracted devils. Those are everything she might have actually summarized. So those are like her main offensive abilities. But her main defensive ability is actually made contract with the Prime Minister of Japan. And the contract was that in exchange for the life of every citizen in the country, in the country of Japan, Makima is immortal essentially. Because anytime Makima is killed, that damage transfers to a citizen of Japan and it manifests as like a random accident or a random disease. So like if he's like being shot in the head, that damage transfers to a citizen of Japan, they get into a car crash and then Makima regenerates. Just so that's like that's pretty famous ability that's pointing to the community, I think. But it makes it very difficult to kill. So kill a thing that would require burning through the entire population of Japan as it lies. And to get bypass the contract, it requires some specific detail in the wording of it that I think we're going to get into that later. Yeah, and then beyond all of that, she just has a few other random miscellaneous abilities where she can teleport. But he's so clear, but she like summons rats over her body, and she can use that to teleport somewhere else, whichever ones, and then she can create like a ritual by like something like taking some death row inmates to the top of a hill on a shrine, and then like commanding them to say the name of something, and then by that sacrificing the person's life, the person whose name is said just has their body completely crushed instantly. So it's very potent, but obviously it's like a ritual would require some setup and like probably not really two people in a fight. But yeah, that's everything I think of. Just like it's got my head and talk for myself.
You can also like levitate. There's like also like an implied biomanipulation she can do. It's kind of vague.
And yeah,
It's like Oh, if you want to do that, want to do that?
Uh, It's like, yes, this is another big thing in the debate. 'Cause it's like, it's a vague ability. I on the series, like, this is before we really know anything about her. And before her abilities are explained. She's in a room with the other members, and just by looking at one of them, she calls him the dog, bleeding out of his nose, and he begins collapsing. She essentially like gives him a hemorrhage apparently. And we don't know what's up with that. It's never explained, even after people have worked out of that. But she does do it just by looking at him. It's unclear what he.
She does have the like
And
the
then later
scene of
on,
like she does have
yeah,
like the scene of controlling her like her brain matter and reforming it as a halo. So she does have like
Yeah,
some
What?
degree of control of like bodies.
I was gonna say, at one point she shot in the head, and just like he takes her brain matter out of her head, and just like telekinetically wraps it around into a halo which floats above her head.
Why?
It's like
She can
we
teleport
don't know.
stuff through the halo. She can like teleport entire doubles through the halo or like weapons.
What?
Like Angel. From
I
Access.
I can't stop laughing at this page though. Like, guy's head randomly just flies off, and then her only reaction is to just bitch slap the guy, and his head recoils in the wrong direction as well. I don't know why that's just such a funny page to me.
Makima versus Denji, I think, took inspiration from. It was a movie, I think. I can't remember what movie Fujimoto took inspiration from for Denji versus Makima's final battle. I know he took inspiration from a film, but I can't remember what it was.
If the death battle doesn't have some random guy just showing up and dying when Makima takes a bad hit, I'm gonna be very sad. Very sad if there's no just random guy just dies scene.
I found that shot in high school. One of the differences between Jujutsu Kaisen and Jujutsu Kaisen is that Jujutsu very in depth in its abilities and how its power system works, and very feminine in that sense. Chainsaw Man is very much not focused on the fighting, and it's not focused on like explaining its power system, how things work. It's like everything is a lot more like dramatic and symbolic, I guess. Not to be like Jujutsu Kaisen is like deep fucking like anything. It's just like they're written differently in that sense. The Marco's abilities are a lot less explained, and it's unclear why exactly he can do what he does.
I've gotten that impression kinda.
Do you mind if I explain like one or two aspects of control really quick? There's two that come to mind. Really.
Yeah, go ahead. Control it. It's like
so control can like if you want to do it, that's fine.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so control like can also cause like complete memory rewrites. Like Nayuta, which is Makima's reincarnation, also uses the ability a lot, and when she uses it, it like rewrites another character's memory so that she thinks she's a dog, like instantly. And this character's important because her name is Yoru. She's the War Devil. She's basically like Makima's control, right? She's part of what is unofficially called the Four Horsemen, which includes famine and Yoru or war. Death hasn't appeared yet, but it's relevant because Makima and Yoru and pretty much all members of the Horsemen can remember events that Pochita has erased from history. Like, despite everyone else not being able to remember. To be fair, Makima just say that like slowly but surely she's not remembering like stuff, but she still remembers it pretty well. Yoru remembers the Nuke Devil, which may or may not have been part of her, that Pochita ate. And despite like this resistance or whatever to being able to like memories being erased, like Nayuta like no diffs like rewrites all of like Yoru's memories to think she's a dog. Then later she just like outright deletes all the memories she had of like that day, like the time she was with Denji. Like control can apparently like be broken through willpower. Like Angel was like brainwashed for possibly years, and because he's like saw her use it on Aki, he's reminded of what happened and he breaks out. And then all Makima does is just say, yeah, sit down, and it kicks in again. Basically, he gets forced down. It's like if anyone was to break out of it, like Kingsley mentioned, all she has to do is ask them to accept the contract. It forms a chain on them that connects them to her body, and she can summon them whenever she wants. she pretty much owns them, pretty much minded body at that point. Anyone who's like contracted seemingly doesn't really have a personality. Like she like summoned a bunch of them versus Denji, and they don't really have a personality. Only hybrids had a personality. Like they pretty much lose personality, and she can even like control their corpses if they're dead. They like super belong to her at that point. Can't really break contracts and Chainsaw Man either. Um, and like
Yeah.
the other thing that oh good.
So I was going to say, so what's mentioning is that it's revealed that over the entire series, she was controlling Aki, and like she thinks that like forcing him to love her, like part of her plan.
Right,
And I
yeah.
feel that yeah, the entire time, Aki didn't know what was going on. He thought just like that was like how he felt. So her control, it can be like very subtle, or it can be like full on, like I can take control of everything you can do, and she can like carry those effects. And he just completely takes control of Aki in the end of the series when she went past her plan.
Yeah, Nayuta also showed it can be subtly used to like affect senses, like trick. She tricks a devil's like taste senses into tasting, like Denji and like and Asa as like, which is the host body for Yoru, as something they were not, like caused it to like puke them out when it was going to eat them. So it can like just subtly affect like even the senses to just trick the senses. Should apply it to any of the senses. Like control is a broken ability, to be honest. She can induce it
It's
with like the
been
most simple vocal command.
spoken about with Naota, the thing of her controlling Yori, like the War Devil and Erasing Memory. It was done. Naota did it like coming a chain out of her finger, and it hits Yori's head, and then upon that she had complete control. Like it's like she turned her into a dog. That's like Makima has shown the ability to like summon those same things. Like whenever she summons somebody she's confident with, they're bound for her body literally like coming up her chest. And it's like very like obviously amazing imagery. We never see her do that thing controlling someone by making a chain out of her finger. We did whatever control someone just like juggles. So it's unclear if that's like a more potent version of the ability Naruto is using, or it's like Naruto's experience, or just to like that's how he does it. But it's debatable because yeah, the reincarnations of devils, they do have like generally have the same abilities. So anything Naruto can do, Makima can probably do as well. But just like it's not a layer of ambiguity there.
Yeah. I do think Makima's most deadly ability is probably the death ritual, but I do think it takes like the death ritual actually like specifies it would have to be like a high altitude and a shrine. Like I've seen people argue could just do it on the spot with her minions, which I think she could probably use some of her sacrifices or her minions as like a sacrifice. It's like she would still need the altitude and location, which like to be fair, she could teleport, I guess, with animals, since she also like controls. The thing is like one thing Nem in series is like she can hear people talking in other locations, even when she's not there through like birds or mice, because her like effective control also extends to like lower life forms. So she can hear that, and like Kingsley mentioned, she can like teleport seemingly like by like there's a scene where like a bunch of like mice appear out of nowhere and her body emerges from it. It's like I don't think she'd be able to pull that off like mid combat. Like here's like really depends on the opponent, I think.
But I guess quite easily it's like against Gojo, she's probably not gonna have like enough
Yeah, I
time
don't
to
think she's gonna have
get
much
a bunch of
time.
prisoners. Yeah. And with the sense thing, it's like it shows that he can't like she seemingly can't speak out like the rifle, so he gets around it by drawing or like animator, so that she can't like listen in what they're talking about. But yeah, her control it gives her it extends to a lot of things that she uses in a lot of different ways, and it gives her a lot of ability, and that's her main thing. And then bang, that's her main weapon, and we don't know what's up there, but she can do it.
There was like
thing that
it was like a thing with control, or rather the contract that was like a bit weird. So it's like the contract normally just redirects stuff as like not redirects, but like it gets distributed as like diseases, right? Or like was it right deaths? It's like in the Denji fight, like her contracted minions on the spot, like connected via the chains,
it's like the damage is reflected almost nigh instantly. Like her head is chopped off, and then like one of her minions' heads gets chopped off, and then she heals. So it's like it
Yes.
is odd. It does seem to be like with her contracted people she has under her control, she can actually like choose and like how the redistribution goes, and it seems to heal her faster. It's like the contract is vague in several things. One thing is when she first dies, quote unquote, she like takes a while to get up, but I think that was just for the surprise factor. But there are like other scenes, like when Chainsaw Man or Pochi is revived the first time, like chops Makima up to pieces into a hallway, and like it takes time for like Kishibe is still able to like have a brief moment of just processing what just happened, and her corpse is still on the floor in pieces. So it's not like there are some scenes where like it takes a bit of time for her to get not hours per se, but it's like still a few minutes. It's like implied it took a little bit of time after her like repeated deaths from Pochita during our fight to get up, because Pochita had enough time to go back to where Kobeni was. But it's like if her minions are there, it's seemingly fast. Actually, the potency of her regeneration is something the series kind of explores. Like,
Yeah.
Enji. Oh, go ahead.
Uh, I was supposed to say, so on her damage testing, he specifies that any deaths are transferred into appropriate diseases or accidents among the Japanese citizens. Then there's a one weird instance where her head is cut off, and then one of her minions that she's directly like using in the fight, their head flies off instantly, and then she just regenerates. So that's like unclear. We don't know like why that happens, but you can like infer that anybody who's like directly contacted with and directly using, she can redirect damage in that sense. Since like her head is still cut off, but enough to regenerate for it and put that damage on somebody else. And then with Japanese citizens, it's just transferred as like a disease or an accident. And the way they get around the contract in the end of the series is that Denji like he hits her with a chainsaw that's made up of a special kind of blood that's completely like spreads through her internally. And because the blood is alive, it's blood therefore it keeps going and just like doesn't start shredding her. So like, even as she's regenerating, it keeps killing her and she keeps regenerating. And the character Kishibe, he specifies that like during that entire time people are dying, so they have to be quick without maintaining a marker. So the way that what then he does is he cuts her up into like a bunch of like small pieces and then cooks her into food. And he just over the course of like of the while, he eats that food and completely eats her body over that period of time. And because it's obviously deliberately a vague thing, but because Denji because he views that as an act of love, it's like because he's still you know everything that happens, he still loves Makima. Because he views that as an act of love, and that he's not attacking Makima, he's like becoming one with her, merging with her, and fulfilling her desire of having somebody equal to her. It doesn't like it gets around the wording of the contract that has to be like of intent or an actual attack. The contract doesn't activate, and he's able to fully digest her. The thing Cyber's mentioning is that we see in the scene that's like the stuff that she's done is she's like eating her hair. You see in the bottom left, so it's like her hair is like running into noodles, and that like blood is made in juice. So the implication would be that Denji has to consume her body, like even out the smallest drop of blood, and even out like the smallest hair, if he wants to like totally get rid of her. Since he has to eat flags, and he has to do it so completely. Now imply like if you argue that implies that's completely like destroying her beyond the drop of blood or beyond like a single hair, would be more potent than her contract has shown in terms of regeneration, and that means like completely vaporizing her would work. But it's obviously that's like it's debatable. We don't really get a ton of details, but that's what the argument is.
You can also argue it might be like like you have to get rid of her like completely thoroughly is like the implication.
Yeah.
You could also debate like a time frame might be the case. Like just because you reduce her to hair might not necessarily mean she regenerates immediately. It's again debatable. Um, 'cause it's just Chainsaw Man doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't like. Ironically, if anything, the character that we've had the most explanation for power set was like Falling Devil recently. But like,
That's
I'm trying to remember if this like, is there a Darkness Devil gif on Tenure? Because that thing has like a great design.
not so it's like pretty much spoke about the interview, but like
That
he wants to
thing.
give like a very specific idea of the therapy unknown in the first place. That's like
Yeah.
a very unique
So like,
design.
there's these things in Chainsaw Man called Primal Devils or Primal Fears. They're like the strongest of all devils because they've never been killed. They mostly reside in hell, and they represent like primal fears, like the oldest fears that mankind has ever experienced. And the Darkness Devil is the fear of the dark, of the unknown, which Fujimoto has also said in an interview also include like space. Not to say like it scales to space, but it's like the whole like scene of the astronauts there is also like a homage to like the movie like Interstellar, for example. Um, it's like this thing's powers are like the most vague in the entire franchise. Even more vague than Makima. It's like it has abilities that like it points at someone and chops them, or like it uses like crushing force. It's really vague. It but it is stated that like give me a moment. It is stated that like primals are like more dangerous than like any version of the gun double.
Oh.
And it's like that. Like the way fear works in Chainsaw Man is the more feared you are, the more powerful you are, and basically it's like the primals are more feared. Excuse me, are more feared. Oh, I have a double one. Sorry. Um, yeah, like they're more feared basically than like the gun double. So it's like they should at least be in power stronger. The odd thing is like Falling Devil is like also primal, but she's kind of a glass cannon. So I'm not sure it would like attribute to all statistics. It's like
Oh my god.
possibly in speed and power, like something like the Darkness Devil would be above the gun devil.
You know, yeah, it's like we're pretty far in hand for that fact, yes. So it's like yeah, segueing into that with the gun devil, it's like usual differences.
Oh, I was just gonna mention that like she like Makima injures the Darkness Devil. They have like a 1v1, right? Like Darkness Devil lures her to hell after it basically one shots everybody else of the main cast and kills some characters. And Makima shows up, and the Darkness Devil and Makima are drawn to like move in tandem. Like they're exactly moving at the exact same speed, not once but twice. And it's a bit debatable what she uses because this is before the move Bang debuted with an actual name. Like she may have used Bang as early as like her first on death screen in the series because in like the train car after she supposedly is gunned down and she does the whole fake out death and kills all the perpetrators, they have holes in their body. It could have been that she punches them or used Bang. But she, in her first clash with the Darkness Devil, her finger snapped by the Darkness Devil's like TK. But her, whatever she's using here, whether it be like Biomanip, Bang, or some form of TK, it wins the initial first clash, causes the Darkness Devil to bleed out. And they have one more clash and she loses that clash. Her entire arm is crushed. Darkness Devil gets uninjured. And then it summons it like a blade and like shoots it right through her, and then she manages to like get everyone out of hell right before it like tries to like kill her even more. But yeah, like he at least is strong enough with whatever move she used to, like the Darkness Devil also has like a some sort of barrier that it uses to block attacks. It's like an active barrier, but it honestly is probably active in this moment. Like her ability just flat out ignored the barrier, and just like caused it to bleed. If it is like biomanipulation, that's like a perfect counter to Limitless. And if it's TK, it's also a good counter to Limitless. Like Gojo's Limitless can't block something like telekinesis. There are like examples of like Bang possibly being concussive force, But if she does have like other techniques to work with that like would just outright bypass Limitless. I guess that gets into the debate part of the thing. I'll try and go through stats really quick. We've been here for a while. Nem, do you have the time by chance? Like how long we've gone?
An hour and 40 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna speed this up. Gojo's pretty easy. He has like a large town to a city level direct feat of causing an earthquake from like the Japan Trench that went all throughout and affected different parts of Japan. It could actually be felt. It's been calced consistently to large town to like low end city level. There is a thing called domain scaling for Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm not necessarily a fan. It's basically just creation feats. Like two curses have like one of them makes like the inside of a volcano for his domain. The other one makes a small tropical island. And it's just taking the amount of energy used to create that and applying it as like creation feats for AP. The reason I'm against it is that most characters, including them, use more energy than they can use for their whole body in combat to make a domain, and it takes them several days to replenish the energy. And we're told recently that the inside of a domain is kind of abstract. Like, to be fair, you do sustain a domain with your body. If you take too much damage, it will collapse. Which is another weakness Gojo could have. If you, like, damage him while he has his domain, cause it to collapse. It's like, some domains are not even, like, physical. So it's, like, hard to say that there's, like, legitimate creation feats that can be used for AP. But, like, Gojo's has enough energy, like, stated by, like, the U.S. Secretary of Energy, if I'm not like, is the Cyrus was his name. He has enough energy to power a whole country. And in context, he's probably referring to either the Japan, because that's the footage he's watching when making this claim of Gojo being in Japan, or the United States, because he's seeking out sources for the United States' benefit to power the U.S. And Kingsley and I actually went through this like a while back, trying to find some sort of method that would work. There's like a multi-city block calc for like a low-end interpretation of it on VSP, and there's like a between the two of us, we have like two different ends that we used. We used like the amount of energy that Gojo could have to replenish for like a domain usage, for example, and it's like Mahito is like the only character, if I recall, that ever has like a stated time. You don't need to know who Mahito is, but let's just say he's like a jerk. He's a, I'm just gonna post an image. Mahito. He's one of the worst, like the most hated characters in there we go. This man, also one of the most hated characters in JJK, but also a great antagonist. It takes him roughly like 10 days to replenish his energy if he uses a domain. So we used kind of like formula for that kind of a thing, the statement, and it got like, I'm double checking the numbers now. Yeah, United States would be like 94 megatons for like powering it for a year. Like city level with like the formula used with Mahito. And if it was like Japan, it would be 22. Sorry, yeah, not in a year. In 10 days, it would be 94 megatons for Gojo, and then yeah, it's because you take the value of how much it's like powered in a year, and you like how it would be across 10 days. So it's like for Japan, it would be like 22.2 megatons. Personally, I'm kind of like, I'm fine with it being the United States. I think Cyrus is probably meant in like the context of his own country. Cyrus is like dead set on, yeah, we should kidnap. He goes as far as going, yeah, we should totally kidnap innocent kids or teenagers or adults that are sorcerers in Japan. They're a better energy source than anything on the planet. We need them. They're clean energy. Like, literally tells it to the president. Like, go to Japan, send a bunch of soldiers and kidnap as many people as you can that have curse energy. But, he scales too that I think got like kilotons with it's like a statement that it can like turn Shibuya to ash, or like I think it was like kilotons. And then like the other feat he would recently scale to is like Sukuna in like a weaker state than when he fights Gojo. Like fires a fire arrow that's like low kill intensity. Like I don't like using the word vaporizes, but it kind of is. Like a bunch of them are like Shibuya, like a good portion of it. So it's like Gojo's like consistently like kilotons to like megatons. Highest probably being around like 94 megatons. It is probably the low ball because it's like it takes Gojo way less time to. Like, he can actually spam a domain in a day. Like using Mahito is not entirely accurate, but it's probably like the best low ball method we have. Just like kilotons to megatons, more likely megatons Gojo. It's like a 20% increase. I think it was like what? That would be like 120 something, 100 something megatons probably. If you take 94 being like his base, like regular level of energy, he'd be able to bring out in a fight. Since it would just be a 20% increase. Speed. Oh my gosh.
That's a good sign.
Let me put it like this. JJK author hates speed. Because the series started off with like casual bullet dodging. Like the anime is like exaggerates it. Like because it doesn't like the anime have like a weird shot of Maki dodging the bullet. It's almost like for her face.
Yes.
But yeah, like recently, Akutami went on record to saying that like one of the fastest characters in the verse was Mach 3. It's like stated on panel, and, like blitzed Maki. It's basically like Mach 20 Koro Sensei, but it's like it's not as prevalent, but it's kind of there. Like you have characters struggling with piercing blood, which is like vaguely above Mach 1, and the problem with piercing blood is after it fires, which is like a jet of blood, with like this initially at like a bit over Mach 1, it deaccelerates pretty quickly. So you have characters struggling with Mach 1 attacks, and like characters being blitzed by a Mach 3. And then like the speedsters of the verse, the Zenin clan, like have to build up speed to reach above like speeds vaguely above subsonic, like explicitly stated above on panel. Not even a verse, it's like Akutami used the word subsonic. So it's like, what do you do? Gojo has a get out of free card. He is stated to be the fastest sorcerer, period. Even above like the Zenin clan's like former head Naobito. So it's like he's not narratively shackled by Mach 3. He does like have a feat of like dodging or at least reacting to explosions going off. And the scene is a bit weird. The old calc was like Mach 40. It might not necessarily be entirely accurate, but there is like a calc method that was done a while back with Black Flash. Black Flash is like a microsecond, right? If I remember right, it was like the difference between unconscious and conscious reaction of the body of using the technique. Like characters can still move and like perform actions when a person is using a Black Flash. It's a bit more like more complex than just that. But I think it was like, if I recall, it's like a bit above Mach 200. It's like to Mach 200 something. No, the conversion. Yeah. I mean, let's see if I can find it. It was on the Shigaraki Mahito blog.
Black Flash is basically like.
I think I can't remember. It was on the Death Battle cast of Makima versus Gojo. I think Black Flash was argued. It's like what, Mach 1000 or something.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact number. DJ brought it up. I can't remember. I mean, the cast is always for fun, but I can't remember the exact speed DJ used for it. I know that our conversion, at least for Shigaraki Mahito, was Mach 284. Yeah, I'm not going to read all of this, but it's like, yeah, it's posted here for either of you two if you want to read it.
It'll probably be put up on screen, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll get you all the scans we need. And then, like, the last... I mean, there is, like, possible lightning timing, like reactions for a character, but it's also like hard to prove the lightning is actually lightning speed, because it's like a thing a lot of people ignore is just like lightning is as fast as it is because it comes from clouds. There's a lot of factors from it, and while this like lightning used by this character, Akutami even brought in like the writer for oh gosh, what was it? It was Dr. Stone, I think. Like to help. Like, it went through multiple like you can tell Akutami was doing research for all the effects of electricity, and like it's consistently stated to be lightning and fast, but I still don't think that inherently proves that it's like meant to be 1-to-1 with like the speed of like cloud to ground lightning. But that same character recently used their like really like might guide kind of ability. It's like a one use. If you use it, your body gets destroyed, and shot EM waves. It's explicitly stated on panel to be like electromagnetic waves, and like Sukuna like reacts to it close blank to his face. It gets like it's like FTL. It's like 1 to 7 times the speed of light, and it's possibly consistent with the chapter afterwards because like he reacts to it again multiple times. Like when he does the initial dodge, he's like weakened, and it's right after he fought Gojo, so Gojo would also scale. So it's like you get like FTL Gojo, because like electromagnetic waves pretty much traveling at light speed. And like there's like multiple calcs, but like the lowest is like 1 times the speed of light, or just like the movement of Sukuna's hand, not even the movement of his full body. So it's like basically like possibly massively hypersonic to like light speed Gojo. Lower if you think he's shackled by Mach 3, but he's probably not that shackled by
Mach 3 EM waves.
The funny thing is that like Lightspeed just came out like literally, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? So it's like I don't know. Maybe not. It'll be. I think it was stated that like there was multiple possible like rewrites to the script of this. Stated. I really don't know for sure. Like the episode coming up, it's like it would be based if it was mentioned in the episode in some capacity.
The perfect time to argue it in the episode before like a week later the manga comes out and is like, no, they're Mark 5 now. They've gotten the buff to Mark 5.
That would be so funny.
Black Box Hell.
Oh god, yeah, I can imagine a lot of black boxes in this one.
Oh yeah, there are probably going to be a lot.
There's going to be like
I think
there's going to be 2 episodes here. There's going to be the episode you watch, and there's going to be the episode you read.
Oof. Negative.
Makima is more of a scaling character. Kingsley, do you want to go through like the different options there is?
Oh god.
Yeah. Yeah. So like again, she's on that. It's a bit more like it's less statement having less explained in Jujutsu Kaisen. But generally, in terms of main characters are strong enough to like launch each other through buildings that haven't been lost fights. And I feel like generally the level of characters operates as. So yeah, that happens like in the very beginning of the series. And Malcolm is able to physically beat down on the enemy or technically she's at the end of the series. Just like completely physically being down. Because he ends up scaling to her physically as well. Characters like Quasi, who was mentioned, she was fast enough to move through an entire crowd of people and decapitate all of them in like less than a second while completely invisible from how fast she was moving. And it's like that's obviously a very big piece there. And it gets like I think it's down to like Mark 2. Characters like Angel, he can block bullets with his wings. It's like you can base that's bullets having a lot of gears. That's like another just backing us up. So it's a bit more yeah, and the gun fiend also has these like going through buildings, we just using falling down all this stuff like that as well. So it's like that little power creep systems. In terms of just that's higher, it's a bit less opaque. But this Typhoon Devil, who represents typhoons, is implied to create storm that covers a decent amount of Tokyo. We don't see how far it extends, just that it covers like the area he's immediately over, and also the area that's like Archie and Angel are like they're somewhere else off in the city, and it's shown to be raining over them as well. So it's kind of like a decent portion. We don't know how much. Doing that, it would get like the exact value. It would depend on how much you think it covers, but it'd be like a few kilotons to a few hundred kilotons. It's debatable if that scales to anything because Typhoon Devil is like he has not like physical abilities. He's just like doing that because that's the thing. And he, like argue if that applies physically. The argument would be that like because devils are powered by the amount of them. I mean, like any devil, she's more fit than Typhoon Devil would be like should be stronger than that inherently. But you could debate that because like it might not be 1-to-1. But it's like yeah, it's another relevant piece. The big thing is that the Gun Devil, like before the beginning of the series, was to like kill millions of people by just like zooming across the world at like massively hypersonic speeds and killing millions of people one after the other, and completely devastating like entire cities in doing that path. And it's notable because just like as you can see, the Gun Devil is like very big. It's massive, and he's moving at massively hypersonic speeds, and just like the kinetic energy of him like rushing forwards, at that speed, with that mass, it's like that's very impressive. And this specific case, like using kinetic energy stuff like that is debatable. Like it's a whole thing from outside of these two theories, but in the specific case, it's specifying that the Gun Devil moves so fast that he burns off chunks of his body. And we see that his speed creates like visible shockwaves which blows rapidly around him, and that when he stops it increases another shockwave, just like in sudden deceleration, the amount of force it's providing. So just the kinetic energy of his body moving at Mach 500, which is about how fast he's moving, you can't tell. That's like 50-ish megatons. I had to calculate that. The Gun Devil's mass is like it's hard to calculate because it's so irregularly shaped. So you get a bunch of ends, and it's like, but generally it's going to be somewhere like city level range, and the exact value I got was like 52 megatons. The reason that scales is because, as mentioned, Makima was able to harm Darkness Devil with either that or telekinesis. She's able to draw blood from him. Now Darkness Devil was like physically.
She also harms Pochita, if I recall, like when he's in midair after the Super Devil, she like draws some blood.
Yeah, it's about to the scan. But yeah, he crushes her body, so he suggests that he doesn't scale physically. But with Nine or telekinesis, she was able to harm him. And Darkness Devil is slated to be like the final level, slated to be one of the fifth. And it's recommended by one of the teams that he's more powerful than even the Gun Devil. And then, like Simon mentioned, during the fight with Chainsaw Man, she's able to fire into space with the bangs and show that her shots are drawing blood from him. And Chainsaw Man is going to be the most feared devil, among devils. So he's also like very high up there, and he also he's able to harm more devils, stuff like that. So he's also like another top tier who should be above the Gun Devil, and was able to harm him with the shots. It's also worth noting that earlier on in the fight, one of Makima's hybrids, Spear Devil, was able to harm Chainsaw Man with a spear, lodging in the pierce his body. So there's like some lacking. It's like just Chainsaw Man carries something like back piercing resistance, but like there's like a few you can't use that skill. It's worth mentioning that that all that is just with her or like in some of the hybrids. It's not stuff that would affect her physically, but showing the Darkness Devil that she you could crush her body. And during the fight with Chainsaw Man, she mentioned she says that she thinks the fight is unwinnable basically. Because Chainsaw Man is just so much stronger than her or her hybrids that even if you feel some small damage, the bang is it's not gonna amount to much. And Chainsaw Man basically recovers by shooting him in space. But physically she still is able to beat down on the reduced sheet at the end of the series, so she should still be in the range of what characters like normal Denji and powers that are able to do. And the highest that would probably argue is staying to the Typhoon Devil. So that's generally you probably argue she's kilotons physically, and then 50-ish level with bang. specifically. And then speed, it also goes back to the gun level. The argument would be that she's able to like briefly fight the gun level. It's an unclear scene, but what happens is that the gun devil starts off 500 kilometers for her. It travels an unspecified amount of distance forward to get close to her, and then it fires a bullet at her, and pisses her through the head. So the argument be that when the bullet hits her, she's able to like notice it, like going through her head, and like roll her eyes, look up at it. She's like, oh, that's very silly, but it does mean she's like is technically reacting to it as opposed to through her head. And then secondly, that she's able to intercept the gun devil with one of her contracted devils, punishment devil, and she's also able to defeat it off screen. The argument would be that like they use that distance, the gun devil's unclear, they use that like how far the bullet was. It is actually either the bullet is really fast and she reacts to that, or the gun devil is really fast and she's able to beat him and infect him with her devils, and that's the argument. That's like, again, that scales to the gun devils like Mark 500, Mark 600 speeds.
There's also like there's also like her moving in tandem with the Darkness Devil. If you think that like the like more dangerous or more powerful statement also applies to speed for like the gun devil, and like Bang is a weird one, but I think it had like a Mach 100 calc for like shooting Denji, Pochita. She's also able to like notice and like perceive him as he's being like continuously launched by it, including like acceleration.
I didn't think like that one worked out, but it's like another argument. Bang, obviously, like it launching him in space does that for, so he has to be moving pretty hard.
I would just use that as like supporting evidence that it's not necessarily like that's that like massively hypersonic might not necessarily be like too big of an outlier for her.
Yes. Also, Hanzi, like mentioned, in the novel, she sees like in the lineup, what she needs to see like moves so fast that she's behind herself. So like her being supersonic. It's like I think at the moment seeing Mark most of that, so that's why Jenny up actually be at the higher ends skiing to the gun devils like massively hypersonic speeds.
Then she has like a funny. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, didn't she has like a funny recent feat where like the guy thought he'd like teleported from down like a staircase, but he just like blitzed him to the bottom.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. Also, and that also reminds me, the recent thing that came up is the Falling Devil, which is another like primal bit, 04, and it figured that her appearance was causing deep fluctuations like across the entire planet, and that it was causing like landslides and caves across the world. It was causing like a million seconds of damage. It's like that's difficult to count because it's happening due to her presence reversing gravity across the planet, like temporarily, in specific areas. And it's like, how do you count reversing gravity? Like, what's that mean? You can like take like the visual damage at least. And around Tokyo, she has stuff like suppressing is pulling like buildings like begin breaking apart and being falling upwards, and like people are being launched into the air, and then that kills many people because they're not crashing back down. That's like, I mean, you could do that a few ways, but just like the work done on the amount of people, assuming she's accelerating in that 1G upwards, that's like it's like a few tons of TNT depending on how you can get launched, and then like the visual destruction of like destroying buildings, just like the backing. But I don't think you'd say that like her ability affecting things across the planet necessarily implies anything stronger, just because that's like with stuff like gravity manipulation, it's like you'll be like breaking the laws of physics. At point, it's like no real way to calculate it, and it just implies that like they have good range, and that primal levels like they can affect things on a worldwide scale. Basically, I don't think you can apply to like power. So yeah, the gun level speed is like the best kind of thing in Engines and so far, and that's like 60 level thing. I guess it.
But you see FTL Pochita for defeating the star.
Oh yeah. Do you want to talk about that, like all the documents?
Oh, should I mention it? Okay, so there was like the vague. I think I mentioned earlier. There's the vague like Pochita, like being the devil that represents like the light from that star. I really don't think that you can do anything with it. We're not told anything about that devil or how the fight went, what it looks like, if it actually was light, like the devil itself. We literally know nothing. So it's hard to say, like for all we know, Pochita could have gotten the jump on it
It's like, we know nothing about it. Same thing with Mount Hio, same thing with the Nuke Devil. Nuke Devil we'll probably know more about soon. Oh yeah, there's the JJK black hole before we move on to powers. Gosh, I hate the black hole. So, black hole was literally just, this character has the ability to like artificially increase their mass by creating like virtual mass on their body, and she loses this fight to one of the main villains, almost like All for One Star and Stripe style, if you guys know what that is. And basically what she does is she decides, you know what, I'm not going out like this, I'm taking you with me. She allows her mass increase ability to go beyond its limit, and she accumulates so much mass she becomes an artificial black hole. But the way it's described is, yeah, no, it's like literally a black hole. Like, even given a comparison, like Kenjaku goes into the main villain goes into massive detail on the black hole, and even says it could destroy the planet. The only reason the planet survives is in her dying moments, Yuki, the character who did this, used her willpower to keep it concentrated in one area, and the area they were in was a very powerful barrier that was destroyed in order to keep the effects of the black hole localized. The only reason Kenjaku survived was like he had basically like plot induced, basically an ass pull. He had like the specific gravity ability called anti-gravity, like systems that allowed him to be basically save him from the black hole. I've seen people argue you can calc like him being like affected by the black hole initially for durability. I think it's like, to my understanding, it would be super difficult to calculate it. At least the person I've talked to, Togo, mentions that it's like really different. There was like an incorrect calc on VSB that got like low megatons. I think Togo said it would like get megatons regardless. Does that sound about right, Kingsley? That it would probably be like megatons, or you think it would be lower? Like Kenjaku initially being affected by it before he turned on anti-gravity. Like him surviving the effect.
Yeah, like black holes are ways when they get into like a lot of ways because it's gravity with like megatons, but like yeah, yeah.
Yeah, black holes can be like very complicated to go through. But it's like nobody scales to the actual black hole. It was a suicide attack done off of a very specific method. Even with Gojo and Sukuna being the strongest, there's really no reason for them to scale to it. Otherwise it would just be like a massive outlier at that point. I mean, there is like a statement on the back of manga volume, Sukuna could destroy the world if he gets all of his figures, but it never specifies what it means by that. Sukuna doesn't want to destroy the planet. It's most likely referring to society. And besides, it's the back of a manga volume. I think those get used too much by like in some Discord debates. It's like an editorial thing or like a promotional thing. It's not necessarily like Akutami saying, "Oh yeah, no, Sukuna could like planet bust." Yeah, so like the black hole is like not really scalable. With that out of the way, like stats would basically be like, without FTL, Makima's like probably 2 times faster than Gojo, and like they have like Gojo could like one-shot her physically, but Bang is like kind of relative to his AP, if not slightly above, scaling to gun double. So it's FTL is the kind of the thing that kind of like we puts it in his favor, and that literally just came out to 2 weeks ago. So it's like the debate up until recently was basically a toss-up. It's like he can beat her physically, but she has a move that's like stronger than he is slightly, and she's faster. As like, I don't want to extend this too much time, so I guess there's like, instead of like doing this like massive go through abilities, maybe like how each ability goes off of each other, like Makima's Bang / TK and Biominute versus like Limitless. That would be probably like the best way to start. It's like, if you think the example with the Darkness Devil is like TK, which it could possibly be, we know that like, let's use Falling Devil for an example. She could use her own like gravity minute like TK, like launch a building, despite its normal application being literally just reversing gravity and sending people flying upwards. It might be possible Makima might be able to use her Bang as like telekinesis. It's kind of a Bang. If you do think it's telekinesis, yeah, Limitless is not stopping that. There's no mass or speed for the 6 eyes to perceive to set up those points to slow it down. It's literally just manifests on the body. And since it would be like slightly stronger than him, it could injure him, at least a bit, unless he's like using domain. Because if he does, he would be like slightly stronger than she is. It's important to know that both of their like AP stuff is lowballed, like since it's using like Mahito for a low end, and technically the Gundam's kinetic energy count doesn't take into account like just how big the body actually would be at like 100%. We know it's like missing a good chunk of his body.
Yeah, I think they post that. Fujimoto mentioned in the Jump Past 2022 interview that the Gundam is incomplete. That's like how many lives because those big important parts. So if you take like if you like assume it's max a lot higher at full size that ice when it like did that Mark 500 thing or when Mark 600 now the was killing people then the value of speed needs to be higher. So yeah, it's like not him. Just his transfer.
Yeah, so they're both like technically lowballed and should be higher. It's just impossible to say like the actual number. But yeah, like Biomanip, she hasn't used a bunch offensively. If you think Darkness Devil is Biomanip, that would be like the ultimate usage of it as like offensive, where she would just need to point and make you like bleed out internally. She gives that one guy like the brain hemorrhage, and like manipulates her own brain. The thing is, it's like JJK has like a statement from its data book that like sorcerers like Gojo, their body are like a domain in itself. You can't like a specific example is given. This character can create trees. They cannot create trees within the or like plants within the body of sorcerers. Their body simply will not allow it. It has to pierce through the skin. Same thing with poisons. The debate is that Makima is not necessarily like trying to manifest foreign material into the body. She's merely manipulating what's already there. In which case, it's hard to say. There's blood manipulators in JJK, like Chozo is, for example, and they don't inherently use moves that manipulate blood in other people, despite the fact that they can like manipulate blood for like blood bags, not even in their own body. That might be evidence. It's still hard to say. It could just mean that they don't have moves that affect the body of their opponents, and they can only use their own blood. I think like if Makima used like Biomanip on the eyes, that would be a really good advantage to her if it worked. It's like even though Gojo can regenerate his eyes, it would take at least a few seconds, possibly, and that means that's like a bit of time where Limitless is completely deactivated, opening him up to pretty much all of her other options, at least for a little bit of time. If she used it on the brain, if it worked, that would be super useful. Gojo can only regenerate pieces of his brain so many times before his healing burns out. And if she destroyed the entire brain, he's pretty much done. And it's also important to note that like curse energy originates from the gut. If you damage the gut sufficiently... Okay, time for super spoilers. Okay, you guys are warned watching this video. If you don't want to be spoiled on like Gojo's fate, click off. 3, 2, 1. Gojo died in chapter 236. Sukuna killed him with a spatial cut that went through him. It went right through like his chest, like we're like cutting him like clean in half, and it killed him. Like this is weird because like Yuki took the same kind of blow where like Kenjaku cut her in half at the waist, and she remained alive long enough to pull off the black hole. It's just really weird that that's like it like instantly killed Gojo. Yeah, I guess the only difference is he also got his arms chopped off. It's like his upper waist was still intact. It's really weird. It's like the destruction. I guess it's because like maybe curse energy originates from the gut too. It's like affected that. Yeah, sufficient damage will kill Gojo. Regen or not. And then the last option, if it's like bang, like it technically did bypass its barrier, so there's an argument even for bang, even though it's concussive force to possibly work. You could argue it doesn't have curse energy, maybe, Like we know that like Limitless is able to stop like Sukuna's slashes, which are like invisible, like flying cuts. That's what they've been described as. So if you think it's similar enough, it might be able to block Bang. It really just comes down to if you think the biomanip would bypass like the body being like a domain. If it doesn't, there's really nothing stopping her from just destroying his brain continuously. I guess another thing, I think there's like three more big ones we could go through really quick to conclude. The immortality. Let's get through that. So like, for immortality, her contract, Gojo really can't beat the contract in the same way Denji did. There's no way he's gonna ever see her as like someone that he would not like have the intent to harm. Uh, I used to argue that like unlimited void could do it. It wouldn't be an attack. It would more like be like because like it would be like the pocket dimension just immediately drops the info dump. But the problem is it's been pretty much made clear it's an attack. It's like it's preset not to harm Gojo. It's like it already has like programming into it. It's just like an info dump that meant to like incapacitate, but it does harm. Um, Recently, and actually, what are your take on this, Kingsley? So recently, it was pointed out to me that like Santa's contract, while it's like a little different from uh basically like Makima's in design, the point is it would still allow her to like move mental attacks, which proves that contracts can do that in CSM. Uh, and it's like part of her contract allows her to move like pain. So like, could you argue that that would prove that like it's possible that maybe like Makima's contract could redirect like mental attacks?
Yeah, it's kind of thought about before. So like you mentioned that the contracts are very different. The way Santa's contract works that um he's like a mind that is connected to all her dolls that he creates. He has like entire arm of dolls that are just like kind of brain puppets. So he can transfer um feelings like pain or transfer like, knowledge that's dumped into her into one of her dolls. Just to decompose it to like trying to like kill her by flooding information to her. It's like trying to like draining the ocean by dropping just like dropping their blood into it. It's like there's too much, such a big pool that it's never gonna work. Um, and the way Cosmic gets around like just like dumping the entire knowledge of the user, just like completely floods the pool and it completely floods all the doors. Martha's contract is a bit different because it's not like she's mentally connected to all the systems in the past. It's a contract she as the prime minister. And we show that like the president of the US can like exchange the lives of all citizens in this country as a contract because he owns them. They're like his people. And my production until someone says he can. That whenever he kills that damage, it gets them think like the damage doesn't necessarily transfer. If you regenerate, he deals the damage, you regenerate, and then as part of the contract, that price is paid by someone else getting into the accident, and then or getting these designs. Um, so I feel like while it does prove like mental attacks to be redirected in that sense, or be like applied but also the contract. I don't think you can directly compare Santos and Marco's contracts because they're functionally they're going to be quite different. And we have to think like assuming Marco is able to regenerate from like having a bunch of information done to her, it would feel like impact with her for a bit and now like still be useful and I guess like possibly to fix that now.
Yeah, I think even if she could redirect it, it would still incapacitate for a bit. She has to take on the like thing damaging her first before like she heals. Um, like one thing we were bringing up recently is that like Sukuna proved it can be transferred. Like Sukuna's way of beating Unlimited Void was he's in Megumi's body. Again, another spoiler. Sorry, but this is a spoiler heavy fight. And what he does is he lets himself be hit by a limited void for a bit, and he transfers the effects to Megumi's like mind and soul, rather than take it on himself. So that brought up a recent argument. Well, that proves it could be transferred. I think it's a little different because it's like Sukuna's doing it directly to like a mind that's part of his own body, or his soul is in his body. I guess there is like the example of like the vague one that like Makima with their own contracts can like auto move the damage directly pretty quickly rather than just like a disease. But it's kind of like it's kind of up in the air. What do you think? I think the Sugata thing is a bit too like unique in its own sense. It's not something like Makima has.
Insecurity is more kind of sounds like anything.
Let's see. There's also like speaking. I guess we'll get to how she counters Unlimited Void in a moment because number two was just how does Gojo deal with the contract. The other thing was like maybe like Hollow Purple used to be argued as existence erasure. There's really nothing proving it. It's never stated to be. It was kind of a headcanon. In the recent fights where it's used, kind of prove it's not. It causes like crumbling, like rubble is left behind when it's used. It blew off Sukuna's arms. It didn't actually like erase them, like just the impact force. And then like it's like the nuke version really just proves it's not. Like existence erasure, just a really powerful attack that like creates like imaginary mass, but it's not like there's no like erasure. I'm also not really convinced it's atomic either. It's just like it's more like atomic statement is more like Gojo manipulates like curse energy at the atomic level to manipulate space, not necessarily manipulate space at the atomic level. And even if it was that, I'm not sure you could prove that like Hollow Purple is like destruction at an atomic scale. I still think it's like it's vastly above Gojo's own AP. If Makima is caught in like especially the nuke version, I'm not sure. I think it's like she would be completely destroyed. And then it's like it's hard to prove that she'd be able to come back like right off the bat. I think by like death battle standards it'd probably be like a like checkmate at that point. There'd be at least some sort of time frame enough to substantiate that Gojo would win, at least under the DB rules. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think like I guess a bit more like about it, but you think like if Malcolm gets it, like more example. I don't know, I guess like I do think there's like probably enough to say that it's reasonable to argue that Hollow Purple is some kind of like atomic destruction and that like aligns with the rest of the abilities and what they're doing new. I think either way it's most likely going to be enough to destruction that we can prove Malcolm could instantly regenerate that at the very least, and at worst it would like go past what her regeneration could do still and just like probably outright kill her because the contract's 100% by a month.
Here's control of curse energy.
I don't think I've ever been more lost in one of these.
It's natural.
I'm sorry about that.
I had a firmer grasp on Madara versus Aizen than on this.
I wanted to finish off part 2 because it's like the big ones would be like Unlimited Void. If it works, it can still like momentarily incapacitate her. Even if you buy that, she can transfer info. She might have ways around the ability I want to discuss in just a moment. I think the other problem is if she's in a domain expansion, it opens her up to the other feature of one, in that every single attack Gojo does has a homing effect. It doesn't matter if she's twice as fast, those things are hitting her. Especially like a Hollow Purple there, that's like game over. I think she would just be out of the game for too long. So it's like, oh, and I guess Gojo is a Japanese citizen. That's a popular argument. But I think
that did come to mind.
It kills Japanese citizens, right? Yeah. So like the usual counter argument is to say, oh well, he's from a different verse that shouldn't apply. I think that's lame as hell. If you're gonna do this matchup, I think Gojo should be susceptible to the effect. It's similar to like a binding vow from Jujutsu Kaisen like contracts. It should be totally something that works. Thing is, there's so many millions of people in Japan, but like I can't remember the old calc for it. I think Time did a calc that like the chances of Gojo.
Yeah, I was gonna say I pulled this time about this recently, and like the how you model it, it's like increasing probability, and it's like It's just like it takes such a long time for people to feel relevant, like the matchup, because like there's such a low chance of okay, I think go really first time the second time. That's like it's basically irrelevant unless that like Gojo literally had no other way of killing Makima other than just killing her and running out all her lives.
And it was like such a low percentage of Gojo killing himself. It was like really small.
It'd be really funny though.
Yeah, really. Unfortunately, Gojo can't announce Japanese citizenship because Makima has contacts with the government, so they should just block him.
What if he destroys the government and then does?
Oh, you know something funny?
I-
So like Gojo is like excommunicated by this Jujutsu Society, like the higher ups, when he's like sealed. I've seen people argue that should totally mean that he lost his Japanese citizenship, so it wouldn't work on him.
I think this is the funniest part of
It's
the
not
argument.
exactly-
Like, the funniest part of this debate, by far, is debating the Japanese citizenship of Gojo and how that affects the fight.
I do like it. I feel like if you try to argue it shouldn't apply, you get what are you doing? Like why are you even participating in this debate? Like why would you remove such a fun element from it?
This is so funny.
Yeah. I forgot to mention. Makima's awesome power is actually bureaucracy.
So I guess if like I mentioned the atomic thing earlier. I guess if you used like the English, the subversion of the JJK Zero film, it might be fine to say some of the abilities work atomically. I just don't think it works visually. It says, so this is the limitless Jujutsu technique that Geto mentioned. It interferes on an atomic level, controlling space-time with precise manipulation of curse energy. That's the closest you're going to get to, like, me be fine with, like, atomic. Because the wording is a little different from the manga. The anime should be totally fine as, like, being canon, honestly. Okay, I guess that gets to part 3. And Makima... Well, there's 2 more parts, I was thinking.
Oh my
I was
god.
thinking, can Makima survive Unlimited Void? We just discussed, like, can she transfer it? I think, if I heard him right, there was 2 or 3 more other arguments. 1, Spider Devil, that's the popular one. That's the one that we originally argued. So it's like, Spider Devil can, like, transport people out of dimensions, like, or send other people to dimensions. In theory, she should be able to pull her out of the domain so long as, like, Spider Devil doesn't get trapped herself. All she really has to do is, like, open her zipper outside of it, and Makima would just, like, appear out of it. Take possibly a few seconds or minutes though to, like, recollect herself from that info dump, which would give Gojo time to attack again. The other one is, like, break the domain from the outside, like if she has the gun double under her control, because, like, the outside of the domain, like the barrier, like the pocket dimension, is far weaker than the inside, unless Gojo, like, compresses it. He's not going to start out with, like, that move. She could probably get, like, her minion, because, like, she can communicate with Princey while Princey was in hell, while she was on Earth. So, like, Makima can, like, give orders to her, like, her minions across, like, dimensions. It literally, like, as the info dump could be coming in, she could just give the order, break the thing from the outside. I mean, she doesn't even have to know about the weakness. I think it would be a normal reaction for her to, like tell them to, like, break in or something. I mean, you technically can break in. Yuji, like, even without breaking Mahito's domain, just by, like, pushing against it, since it was weaker on the outside, he was able to, like, get inside. Thing is, if they do that, they're screwed. They're gonna get hit by the info dump. They need to break it from the outside, like, with actual impact force. Which is possible. Sukuna does that to Gojo's, like, barrier from the outside. And if, like, he loses his domain, it shuts down his powers, like I said, for a few minutes, or he has to risk destroying part of his brain to, like, speed up the process. What is there else is there? Okay, I know I talked to Kingsley about this a while back because it was something that came to mind. So, I think Nem also heard earlier when we mentioned, like, her, like, controlling her brain parts to make the halo. It's like the idea that comes to mind is, really nothing stopping her from, say, like, scrambling her own brain to delay the effects. She can control her brain. I guess you could argue she wouldn't know to do that immediately right off the bat, but she is aware of a similar ability in her own verse, that being like the Halloween info dump. Like if she did scramble her brain, I think it would like delay the effects. There's actually an interesting statement from a author Akutami recently. With the brains of curses, the effect of Unlimited Void is far more limited on it than a normal human. And which makes sense, because it's like, for a normal human, 0.2 seconds would be about 6 minutes 6 months worth of an info dump and incapacitate them for 2 months. For normal curses, it just incapacitates them for 5 minutes. I'd argue Makima is more like a curse than like a human. Like, the energy systems in both verses are so close, and she's a devil. She's more akin to a curse. So I think she already has a natural, like, not a resistance, but like she would be less damaged by it. And then if she scrambled, that would probably be a good way to deal with it, at least for a bit. And she could also like perform actions while like scrambling her brain. She was able to like use abilities against the Gun Devil while she was forming the Halo. I do feel like, unfortunately, a lot of Makima's Cup arguments do kind of feel like stuff she can do and stuff she has partially done, but it definitely feels a little bit like being a little bit lenient, whereas Gojo's feel a little bit more direct. Like, he is willing to spam his domain. He spams it 5 times against Sukuna. And if push comes to shove, he will use purple. It's just the nuke is like a last resort.
I mean, the argument you've given him is just hit her really, really, really hard.
Well, the problem is that, like...
And big.
Okay, so, you know how I mentioned there's 3 variations of purple, right? There's the ball of energy you shoot forward. It has a big problem. It has too much setup time. Gojo has to stand still, put the form red and purple, mix them together, and then fire. It has so much setup time that even with, like, only 5 seconds of precog, which is what the normal amount the future double gives, Makima has more than enough time to get herself out of there. You could literally possibly even teleport through animals in that time frame that it takes Gojo to set up purple. Gojo can fire like a smaller version of purple, but like the area of effect it has on like a body is like, when it hit Toji, it blew off his arm and like destroyed some of his like rib cage, but it did like vaporize his whole body or whatever. It's like that would have to hit Makima like, I don't know, in the head or something to be relevant. And even then, she could heal like decapitation or losing her head. Like, she would need like to be really close by when he does something like that. Like, blue can be used to crush limbs, but like that's child's play for her. I feel like in order to really destroy her, you'd have to fire like an amplified red on her, or like the purple nuke. And the thing is, he does not start with the purple nuke. The purple nuke is like his like last resort. He should easily be able to deal with most of her summons. Limitless is going to keep them away from him. He has the AoE to clear most of them. Stuff like the one that petrifies you, the Stone Devil, that could be dangerous. But the wind has to touch you. And when Darkness Devil kills it, it's like right nearby, like physically. It could be that like the petrification effect is from it touching the opponent. Excuse me. Oh, I hope I don't have a small cold. I'm actually going to an event tomorrow.
Oh.
He's okay.
Last but not least, the last point is control. Can Gojo survive control? Everything we just mentioned means nothing if, when she speaks, he's forcibly submits, and then there's no fight. So
That's been on my mind ever since that was brought up, yes.
Control is the last big one to discuss. Because, like, control, he has a few options. So, like, early on in JJK, Gojo was affected by an ability from the plant making thing called Hanabi. The plant the cursed name Hanabi. And what that ability does is that it lessens your willpower to fight back for a bit. And it affected Gojo, which proves he's not immune to mental effects, but he quickly snapped out of it and like broke free of the effect via kind of like his willpower. Still, not a good sign because control is far more potent than that willpower ability. And like I said, Angel broke out of it, and all she had to do was give another vocal command, and then put him into a contract so he couldn't break out. Not, and if you recall, I also mentioned it can rewrite memories or trick senses. So it's like, what can Gojo do? Well, he's got 3 arguments for him. One, his brain he constantly refreshes with reverse curse technique 24/7. That might help with something basic like affecting the senses. I don't think it's going to cut it against something like memory rewrite or mind control. But so then we move on to the next one. He has the brain reset option, which is dangerous to him. It gives him about... So brain reset is, like I said, he can destroy parts of his brain to... and then regenerate them. If he destroys the part of his brain that's, like, involved with memories, it might be sufficient. He destroyed a rather extremely complex part of his brain called the black box, which is in charge of, like, techniques. We're told that the brains of sorcerers are different than humans. That's what ended up reducing the number of brain resets to like 5. You can only handle 5. In theory, like a quick brain reset, like if he fights back with his willpower against like an initial vocal command, then immediately sends curse energy into his brain and destroys part of it and then restores it. That should like sever the effect, I feel. Thing is, he can only do that a limited amount of times, and all she has to do is keep speaking.
That should definitely happen in the fight, though, because that sounds raw.
It does. The idea that I had with Deck is maybe like, when Caden is like in the domain, what you could do is that like, she scrambles her brain to fight off the effect of Unlimited Void, while she uses control and he destroys part of his brain and like bleeds out of his nose while healing it. His last argument is interesting. It's a characterization argument. It's my old argument. I'm not sure how much I want to lean on it. So, twofold. Makima doesn't use control on everyone. There's a guy named Kishibe who's like a threat to her plans. He's the strongest devil hunter. She actually respects him to some extent, which is odd because she doesn't respect that many humans. At several points she could have used control on him because she eventually knew he was going to try and assassinate her because he knew she was a threat to humanity. She doesn't. She doesn't use it on the gun devil, even though she theoretically could have, and she just beats it in a fight. She doesn't use it on the darkness devil, who she instead escapes from. She has an excuse when it comes to Pochita. She explicitly says she sees Pochita as above her. She has to beat it in combat to prove otherwise to herself. You could argue then that in character, if she respects the combatant or doesn't inherently see herself like initially as truly superior, she reasons she has to beat them in a fight to prove to her, to like perceive them as like inferior to her, which opens them up to control. Second, I mentioned way at the beginning of this video that Gojo, when he was born, kind of like affected the social balance of the world. Gojo has kind of like this effect. Like seasoned serial killers were hired to kill him when he was like 10. And these were like, no joke, these were like the worst of the worst. The moment they saw Gojo, just like saw him, they crapped their pants. They bailed, and they understood in that very moment that he was a unique existence that like affected the world. Like Gojo at one point says in the series, "I alone am the honored one." I mean, Sukuna also is said to have said the same kind of thing, the narrator saying it for Sukuna, but the point is that, like, Gojo is literally, I mean, I hate to say it like this, Gojo is him. He's kind of like this entity that has, like, not just severe charisma, but, like, an aura to him that, like, if you, like, someone like Makima, who has supernatural senses, would pick up on would kind of immediately be aware that this guy is not normal. Gojo is like, as he says it, he brings infinity which exists into reality, and he's, like I said, the first holder of the six eyes in hundreds of years. There's actually a system of fate in JJK, as much as I hate discussing fate, that the holder of the six eyes is bound by fate to protect a certain person who's like a meant to be like the chosen vessel for the entity in Japan that like protects it from like curses. Like the entity named Tengen, he holds up all the barriers for Japan, right? So like even the six eyes, or rather Gojo in this context, is someone like used by fate normally to protect like Japan. So it's like he's an anomaly basically. Now the problem is, would that mean Makima, determining this, would choose to respect him and not use control? It's extremely iffy, and I feel it's like that's the problem with it. It's a characterization argument. It's not a typical versus argument. It's kind of basically saying, oh, Gojo is too charismatic, or she'll find him unique enough that she wants to beat him down rather than control him. Granted, like I said, she has examples of not doing that. But she also did have an example of like controlling Angel when she first found him. She found his ability impressive and wanted to see it firsthand. So she's not entirely like without going to control even unimpressive like people she finds impressive. Yeah, I feel like you can maybe argue it. I am hoping it's not the main argument against for her using it in the death battle though, because I feel like I would use it as a supporting argument for something else, but not like the main crutch of the argument. What do you feel, Kings? Do you think the argument's too characterization driven?
Yeah, I guess the thing of like at that point, and that's based on like the whole fan fiction, and especially very fan fiction arguments. We get quite heavily into assuming how many characters we got, and assuming like that's what you think of the characterization and how those would there. But in the case of Control, specifically, it's well known that with Angel, when he broke out of her control, it was like he'd been controlled by her for years, and all those memories of like when he saw her control Archie while he friends him, all those memories of her like controlling him and making him kill all his friends and his lover, they were like rushing back into him. Makes it will break down for this. Mark does just like instantly put him down again, stepping down. But he mentions that he's impressed by it. And that's like believe that Angel, it wasn't like something he's able to instantly like down his fingers and break out of it. It's like a very long and complex process that requires like a lot of motivation for him to break out of. It's like contrast that with Gojo and Hanami, where he's like Gojo's like affected for a few seconds, then he just slapped himself out of it, and was able to do completely fine. I think Gojo's feat is definitely a lot more impressive in that sense than what Angel was doing. That's not the thing Marco can just like control him again. I think then he could either like Marco controls him again and Gojo breaks out again, Marco controls again, Gojo breaks out again, and something like that. And then Gojo has a few other crutches with like the brain refresh or being able to destroy scramble his brain and then regenerate it. But obviously that latter has issues. Like can't understand that. And then like as a backup, as like the first like point that just like he's a sports, I'd say that yeah, like is one of the things that he does have an importance or basically that like let people know that he's a big deal and that he's very powerful and that he has like power to change the world basically. That's that. It's like all that versus just Makima thinks Gojo is inferior, controls him, like that's him fights over. But I think the instance of Konami, which suggests that Gojo like has enough leeway there that he can at least break out of it a few times, or he like wouldn't be instantly soft players. It is worth bringing up the whole thing of Nayusa controlling Yori when he like resist having her memory like his man like memory rated. But like I said, Nayusa did that by pulling a chain out of his finger and placing her brain. And it's like if you think you need to do that, like have that level of control, then limit up to one out is the difficult attack. But if you don't, then like you can argue that this like memory rising on like control is like more powerful than anything Gojo was just. There's like there's a few ways to argue this. I think generally Gojo probably is enough leeway to say that Mako just couldn't just instantly empathize with it.
I think if like we use Yoru's variation, like when it's used on that one devil to affect its senses, the chain is also in its head. I feel like if the chain is in the head, Gojo's best bet is to like nuke the part that it's like attached to. Like he absolutely must use a brain reset at that point. He needs to, and the thing is he can't destroy his entire brain. It's only a section of the brain. So it's like if it's affecting the whole thing, then it's like I think that's at that point it's checkmate. Makima wins. Like I've seen some people argue that the chain variation might mean that Limitless can block it because it's a chain. The thing is the chain is more like ethereal in a way, and there's really nothing stopping. Like let's say she destroyed his eyes briefly with like Biomanip or like TK if you buy she has that, and she shoots the chain out of her finger. Checkmate. Like it connects to the head. Because all she really needs is enough time to do a memory rewrite, which is GG. I don't think he's countering that. There is no... The thing is, the only memory rewriting we have in Jujutsu Kaisen is Yuji doing it vaguely, and to the two people or one person it affected, they didn't resist. And really nothing implying Gojo can resist full-on memory rewrites, especially to something like Yoru, where she should have been able to resist that. That occurs, he's done. He's not going to be able to do a brain reset because he's not going to think of doing it. These memories will be rewritten. Like I said, if he does a brain reset that it's like to the potency of like that he did in the series, like the black box, he can only do it 5 times. Once he hits number 5, he loses his domain expansion, which means he loses a very valuable resource against Makima. Extremely valuable. What else? And I feel like this is back to the characterization thing. I feel like the reason she doesn't use it on Pochita is, like in her own words, Pochita is a being of chaos. Like her true fascination with him is like his conceptual erasure. Like she says that like he even has people that worship him. And this is before the cult of like the Church of Chainsaw Man was a thing, right? That she considers herself like his ultimate fan. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like her not using it in Pochita and her not using Gojo definitely are not equatable, per se. She doesn't even know Gojo. She's known Pochita for a long time. And like, sees him as like the only being that can relate to her, or vice versa. I do think, I do recall what you mentioned just a bit ago, like if she found him impressive.
Yeah, I do think that like I disagree with like comparing Gojo and Cheetah. I think it's like Makima's like fascination with Cheetah and her fanboying over him is like way too specific to like the context of the story and like what Cheetah is. So like it's good already, you know. So I think that like using that like viewpoints.
Yeah, I feel like I've said this before. I still feel this fight is extremely high diff. Gojo has to turn her not just into paste, but make sure there's nothing left. I feel. Or I don't think he has anything that would like work like Power's Blood, where it's like a continuous attack on the body. The only thing I can think of is like the info dump, where it's like a constant effect. But I'm like referring to like physical damage. He doesn't really have like a continuous effect kind of an attack.
I was gonna bring out like I think that like I think Power proves that like it's physical with it, but using that proves that continuously jumping into it would be like that would be like a big issue, but that's not like something she necessarily just like break out of just like that and that. So like yeah, it's gonna be I think a big example for him.
There's also like Gojo has like defensive techniques like Falling Blossom emotion that I felt like could maybe help block Bang, because like the thing with Bang is it has enough knockback force to like send you into space. Granted, I think the Limitless would stop that if it could stop Bang, but if it can't, like I guess you could argue she could even send him into space. He could cross a good distance with teleportation, and he can use it in combat. That's another thing. He has teleportation that can help against her, something she can't really do in combat. The thing is, she has Future Devil. Not only she could see 5 seconds in the future, theoretically she could also like control Future Devil to see like a lot in advance. But she might have to like let it see, like put her head in its chest cavity for that. And I don't think Gojo's gonna give her the time to do that. Which means she's limited to like the limited precog. And if I recall, Aki said the weakness of the precog is in like if your opponent is too fast, it's useless. So like that's why FTL is so relevant right now. If Gojo was really that much faster, I still think it would be kind of high diff, but she wouldn't be able to exploit stuff like Future Devil, and would have less chance to like use Biomanip or Control. He can't block her out saying like controlling her, because like I mentioned earlier, he didn't block out that sound from like the exploding bugs. He still hears things. So just can you recall any event of like control being used without vocal commands? Besides the Nayuta.
Yeah, actually, something about that. It's coming out when I used to does the training, it used to like natural sound effects, which like you could like not indicate it's physical, like physically there. But like yeah, beyond that, see off the top of my head, I don't recall any time where she just like oh wait, yeah, when he's like after she like revealed everything's identity, you can just like make people kneel. And she's like does that. So I think that would indicate she probably wasn't using any vocal commands there. Any trigger the panel.
I have to probably see the panel. I'm forgetting this event. Yeah, Nayuta's like chained through the head. I think if that ever occurred to Gojo, that is like checkmate. Like if Makima should be able to do the same thing, and if that goes into like phases and through his end, he's done. No, like you can see it in this panel. It goes straight through her brain. There is no amount of brain reset that he can pull off reasonably without killing himself that's gonna save him. Like, he would have to destroy too much of the brain. At that point, he's dead. Yeah, I feel like with all stats, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning Makima. 51, maybe. I feel like FTL, I would definitely lean Gojo. Maybe like 52 to 48. Too much of a speed buff. He's able to actually get like have more leeway. I feel like this one. I don't know if she's using. Oh, yeah. I think she's controlling them here, but I think it's because like they're probably all contracted to her. To be honest, at this point, I feel like contract like in the fight with Denji, or even like when she's using contracted against like the zombie devil, for example, against R. Like at that point, like the commands just seem to be purely mental. I feel like if she has like a contract on you, at that point, like I said, you kind of belong to her body and mind. Like, and that's the other thing. She controls Gojo for just a moment. All she has to do is ask him to give her everything, which would initiate a contract. At that point, it's a done fight. Gojo can't break binding vows. I've seen an argument he could maybe use RCT to like exercise her if she considered her like a curse, but he can't really do that. Like the only character that's ever done that is Yuta. Gojo's not good at, like, Gojo can't use RCT on other people, only himself. I think that's pretty much it. Makima has the AoE, sorry, it's, the numbers advantage, not the AoE, but the range. Bang has, like, a better, like, range, kind of, than, any of Gojo's moves, even, like, the nuke. I feel like if he pulls off the nuke or, like, a purple in the domain, he wins. I think she might be able to get out of a domain once. If he, like, uses, like, a quick burst domain, like 0.2 seconds, honestly, I can see that being enough to win. Like, it would incapacitate everyone, and Makima would probably, like... The thing with the scramble is it's not an... I think this was brought up with prior G1 blogs. I can't remember which fight. It's not an like a passive resistance. It's an active one. How can she scramble her brain if she's like hit by a heavy amount of info dump? It would then come down to the contract, and that's debatable if it can transfer or not. I think even one moment of being stunned in a domain, he would just hit her with an amped up attack sufficiently to eventually destroy her. There's a lot of back and forth in this fight. So it's really fascinating to me. It's about 2 a.m. where I am. I do need to be ceasing.
Yeah, I think we
sorry
can.
for the length.
Kingsley, if you want to say
Okay.
who you
Just, like,
think wins
hey-
quickly, or who you think you lean.
Yeah, I just say, yeah, say like I think difference is that like Makima has a lot of abilities, but outside of the items, I feel like it relies on assuming she'll use abilities in a certain way that she hasn't really shown, or will come together specific abilities to counter whatever Gojo is doing. And the difference is that Gojo actually does come with his abilities, he actually does like spam things and use them in like complex ways that are very useful in like a versus scenario. And in stats, Gojo, he's physically stronger. He generally very stronger in general, beyond like being bang is a bit higher. He's like probably not significantly out faster speed and might be faster depending on what you take. It's like there's room for like Devils and Chainsaw Man that like Iron Devils don't quite be like world ending threats in interviews and like point them was like there's not really much intel on that, so you can't be definitively saying. So stats are like not going to be a big advantage for Makima. Being control probably is something he is to win. I think Gojo has like enough leeway there in terms of resisting Konami's 12 heads and Berserk. It's like the characterization afterwards and like Makima like not always going first. And I think it's just like Makima's regen is strong and is very much useful. But like I think Gojo hits her with the domain, which I think is like even reasonable. He had this like way better crowd control. He like instantly kill all the devils, stuff like that. Like his entire armor is like nothing to him. He can just like use blue, suck her in, and then just like hit her with domain. And when she's in domain, it's like she possibly use Spider Devil to get out, but then Gojo can just kill Spider Devil, and then Gojo can use domain multiple times. It's like if she's hit with the info dub, I don't think he can prove that her contract would like redirect it, because that's not necessarily how it works. And then if she's like gained slightly rollback info and her brain is actually being scrambled, it's like it'll burn through. It probably like you can argue just like burn through a lot of her eyes, and that could like eventually that might kill Gojo. You think they're like you think he applies to the contract, but it's like at that point she's probably reasonably going to be incapacitated long enough that Gojo can just obliterate her with a purple. It's like I say just, it's not that simple, but like I think Gojo's win cons are like slightly more reliable. It's like relying more on stuff he's actually done, he's actually shown. And Lamarck is a lot more self-ambitious because her abilities are so much bigger. And I was assuming like Bang isn't like physical force and it's like telekinesis, but like assuming her bionet wouldn't be countered by like sorcerers having internal domains. So interesting. I think we need to give her more leeway to argue her win, while Gojo with the domain and purple, I think like always have to go by a win con and like very reliably gets on with like how potent his teleportation, his crowd control, all the abilities are, and Limitless just like completely negating most of his offensive options. And he's just like better information analysis too. So he's always going to be one step ahead. Even with stuff like the huge delve, which like Makima like he barely use that usually gets stunned at what we don't see what that means. While Gojo has like much more solid tonies in that field. So I think Gojo's like it's definitely like debatable. I think Gojo should solidly win.
Ojo is him.
And I'm
But
so
what is
lost that I
Makima?
have no idea. So, yeah. This prediction has ended up
Goodbye,
going
Eric. Let's go.
50-50, so wonderful.
I guess before we go, not anything related to this matchup anymore. There is a Makima matchup Kingsley likes a lot. Wanted to ask, do you want to share anything on that really quick?
No, not really. I don't really know what to say. I think Haruko is cool. It's like politically it's very similar to Chainsaw Man, but it's like it's like I like this too. I don't even.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, I feel, or at least like narrative ones. Um, anyway, Neb, thank you for having me on. I'm sorry we basically dragged you through an info dump. No pun intended.
If I didn't want that, I guess I would have said no.
Uh, well, all
At
I
least
have to
I will. At
say
least I will be less
is-
confused when the actual episode drops. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Something
they gotta
else
keep
makes
it
better.
to 20 minutes. They gotta keep it to 20 minutes or less. Here, share with me the unlimited void.
Wonderful.
Anyways, I do need to be going. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here, both of you.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
he's gone.
And
We've-
then number 2.
We've lost the monarchy. Oh no. All right. Well, goodbye,
We've
everyone.
lost
See you,
the
Cyber.
child.
I do have to eat. Goodbye.
Alright, see ya. Bye.